a place for conversations. SDAQ&A. You're safe to speak your truth. Common ground, shared beliefs with lots of room for disagreement. Tell us all what you believe and let us see if we can challenge you. From all paths coming here to share their stories. Some have left this global church, some remain and defend her. Where are you on the path? Does Ellen still appeal to you? SDAQ&A, you are welcome here. 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 Oh, SDAQ&A, you are welcome here. SDAQ&A, you
You love me so much more than I could ever know. Your love is deeper than this world will ever show. And all of life's beauty shines around this moment now. The sky and the cliffs, they seem to change my life somehow. And I will never be the same, will never be the same. Whoa, I will never be the same, never be the same ever again. Here I am waiting, Lord, my life is just for you. Please unfold all the plans that you would have me do. And if all the world's just a breath and nothing's here to stay, then all of the love we feel will save us anyway. And I will never be the same, will never be the same. Whoa, I will never be the same, will never be the same ever again.
And God's will is simple. The most wretched man in hell will not be Adolf Hitler. The most wretched man in hell, or woman, will not be one like Joe Stalin or some of these more modern devils. The most wretched person in hell will be a former Seventh-day Adventist.
Hello and welcome to another SDAQ&A season 16 episode 2, and we're going to go back in time in a moment. And yes, that video, how interesting. It's about there's an 11-minute version of that. It goes on to kind of say that special place for former Adventists, particularly if they've graduated from Oakwood. But the message is clear and it's not out of context. So yes, anyway, here we are. Good to see you all. I'll get that intro better soon. It's supposed to jump from him saying that to me in the rain to the intro clip. I'm getting it wrong sometimes, but I'll work on it. I aim to please. I hope you've all had a great weekend and a week so far. Today we delve back in time to a fascinating interview I had with Harry Allen. And this, as you know, we are uploading season 2, the seminal Glacier View Dr. Des Ford series onto YouTube. They're pretty much gone from Facebook, unfortunately, but I think that it's such an important season that I really am wanting to put them all up for the general public to see. I went swimming yesterday with my daughters and I've got water in my ear. Can't hear myself properly if I'm seeming a little distracted and disoriented. So I will enjoy not talking today and just listening. And I'll begin playing the episode. I hope you enjoy. Sit back and relax. Those listening to the podcast, we're going back in time now, and 5 years, as I mentioned, and see if you think things have changed. Share with your thoughts. But I do remember really enjoying this conversation. And Harry Allen is very well known as the PR guy behind Public Enemy #1, that very, very famous hip-hop band. And he's a Seventh Adventist, and he's a big Des Ford fan. So, I think you will really enjoy this conversation. I'm a little bit starstruck because I knew who he was. And when Gillian said, I've got someone who I think you should talk to, Harry Allen, I didn't click that it was the Harry Allen until I think he and I were just chatting pre-show. With the starting point, I couldn't find the actual proper start. So I think it's around the official start, but we were just having a great conversation for about half an hour before the show and about an hour afterwards, and it's all recorded. But today I'm just playing the interview, the main part of the program. So, anyway, here we go. Enjoy. Season 2, episode 32, replay from the Des Ford Glacier View series. Episode number 32, this was. Worse than better. So I kind of am exploring questions that I wasn't allowed to ask. And ironically, I can now ask.
When you say allowed by whom?
Well, people like you'd ask questions. I'm talking about probably in the last 5, 6, 8 years.
I mean, and I'm asking it this way. For me, it's not a situation of like not feeling allowed to ask the questions. It's a question of I don't feel like there's anyone around me who can give answers that are meaningful to me.
Yeah. Oh, look, that's it.
Like the people around me don't seem like they're either thinking about these things or not interested in it. If I had people around me who I felt could give me answers, I would ask them.
Yeah. Well, that's 100%. I felt like I had no people I could even ask the questions, apart from band members. And you know this with music. It's like I feel like musicians are part of a separate nation. We're kind of we're all from different cultures, races, belief systems, and so we'd be traveling in the band, and I'd have one guy, the bass player, once was he was from Malaysia, and he's a Buddhist. I had a Catholic keyboard player, had an Aboriginal guy doing didge stuff, and we'd have these amazing conversations about Adventism. Whereas outside in the world, I couldn't really chat that, and I noticed that come about 2015, if I made public on Facebook asking questions about investigative judgment or other things, I'd lose gigs. I'd literally have people call up and cancel gigs and stuff.
Would they say it was for that reason?
Yeah. They would say, look, we've had a call from our local conference leader and there's been complaints about you coming. You're a bit too controversial or what you're saying. We don't want you to mislead the youth with your thoughts on Des Ford or whatever. And so we're going to have to cancel that gig.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting because I'm imagining, I don't know what your gigs are like, but I'm imagining that you don't play and then say something about the investigative judgment.
I never, ever, ever have. Yeah, that's the irony.
So what is it that they're saying we just want to punish you? Is that what they're saying? And because our young people can just go to they probably already read what you've written if they're at all interested in what you're doing. So like, what is this about?
Oh man,
I'm so curious.
I'm dying to chat to you more about this stuff because you get it, and so many people I talk to don't, and I felt a very almost isolated kind of life.
No. When Jillian spoke about the possibility of speaking to you, like I went and looked at what you're doing, and I was like, okay, I don't know. I met Des, and we were, acquaintances, and exchanged emails, and he dedicated a book to me, which was like, really crazy. but I didn't go through Glacier View. I wasn't there. I was 14 when Glacier View happened.
Yeah. Well, you and I are only a couple of years apart.
Yeah, we're only a couple of years apart. I take it. So that means your experience of it as well was just probably mostly indirect. I'm guessing.
Yeah, very young, and like I would have been 18 maybe. And living in Kurrambong, but at the exact same time, the Lindy Chamberlain thing happened with Azaria, the dingo and the baby being taken.
Yes, right.
So when I go to Avondale College in '81,
as well, and that was a big story. Yeah. And then also with Des, a lot of the pastors in your country left.
Oh yeah, 200 people left in an area that's quite small.
So you might have seen a lot of that kind of tumult.
I saw that happening as you. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's unpack some of this live, I reckon. This is important stuff.
I'm ready when you are.
I'm going to hit that button. Hang on. Because you're just raising some stuff inside me that I think I've never really shared that is probably... I've touched on it, but people just go, oh, yeah, and they glaze over.
Oh, interesting.
Here we go. Just got to hit that button again. Zoom's got this funny thing where it goes live before you're expecting it, so just be careful not to be picking nose or anything right now.
Yeah, I've noticed that it will start counting before you even hit the right button.
So we might be live.
But that'd be interesting.
But only would be in the last 5 seconds.
Yeah, it says meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. Hello, Facebook.
Oh, it is live. There we go.
Yeah, at least on my end, that's what it's saying.
Yeah. Well, let me get my little monitor here. And what I'll do is just a quick preamble as we wait for people to join the room.
Okay.
So, before I welcome
what time
my
is it
guests,
where you are?
So we're about 11:25 at the moment.
In the morning
In the morning, yeah, yeah.
on
You must
Thursday,
you must be Wednesday 9:30ish.
about 9:30, 9:25 Wednesday night.
Right, right. So what I do is just a little bit of a preamble, just as I wait for people to come in. So I'll just
Okay.
ignore you
And
for
what would you like me to do? I mean, how would you
you
like me
just
to?
have to just sit there for a second, and
Okay. Sure.
um, I, my wife watches these, and she says you should put people into the waiting room and then do your preamble and then bring them in so they don't have to just sit there nodding.
Oh, this is fine. That way I can hear what you're doing and get a sense of it.
Yeah, oh, that's good. So for those that are just coming into the room now, we'll wait till we've got about 20 people. Sorry, we've been a bit delayed this morning. It's actually my fault because we've got a new little puppy dog, Spot, and we're building a gate so he doesn't escape. And the guy coming to fit in the gate was running a bit late, so I actually didn't get a chance to get the link to Harry until probably about 1 minute to 11 our time. So apologies for that, but we're getting a nice bunch of people coming and joining us now. And SDAQ&A, as most people know, started about 18 months ago as just a podcast. And then when COVID began, and I was just chatting to Harry that we call it ISO, classic Australian, we'd shorten every name, short for isolation. And during that time, I began doing interviews on Facebook, and I thought let's start doing some of the SDA Q&A stuff from our group, and it's just been really exciting to see it grow from 150 members to about nearly 1,200 members in just 6-7 weeks. What's most exciting about that is within the group there's another little group of people growing that just enjoy communicating with each other, and I'm looking forward to organising some events here on Zoom and Facebook and later on in the real world where a bunch of us just get to hang out, and I'm planning a retreat up at Yarrahapney where we'll invite guest speakers, we'll have lots of music, good food, and we'll just chat about all things that we're interested in. So yeah, we've got a good number in the room now, so I'll just pause for a little edit point later and we'll begin. Hello and welcome to SDA Q&A. I'm Peter Dixon, your host for today, and I'm very excited to welcome and introduce our guest today, Harry Allen. Great to have you here, Harry.
Thanks, Peter. My pleasure.
We were just chatting off, before we came live, and I thought, man, you and I have got to sit down and just have a long conversation on lots of topics.
Oh, that's great.
And we were talking about just touching on a little bit how you got to know Gillian and Des, and it's just as a bit of a backstory for people who are watching. It was interesting because, so in my mind, being a musician, I've got a great love for all different styles of music, and when Jill mentioned I've got Harry Allen for you to introduce. He's involved with some hip-hop music and stuff. In my mind, I was thinking, I do know of this guy in the States who does kind of hip-hop Christian music. I wonder if that's him, because surely it's not the other Harry Allen that I'm thinking of. And it's interesting that I think Des and Jill kind of don't really know much about that part of you as well.
Yeah.
But so I thought for the edification of and education and informative nature of the podcast, I'd just talk a little bit about how I became aware of you and why it's really exciting to kind of talk to you today on two kind of levels. One, the Adventist connection to Glacier View, which we'll talk about later, and one about your influence on the music scene. And you and I. So I'll stop talking soon, but this is just a little bit of info to sort of that I just thought was interesting. So you and I were kind of born around the same time, early 60s. I think we're a couple of years apart. And I've read people say that we're not really, is it Gen X were the ones that were 69 or something? born from
Yeah, I think
69.
we're the tail end of boomers. I think that's what.
Yeah, and we don't really resonate 100% with boomers. We're kind of, and
Right.
so apparently we're called the baby busters. If you're born between 61 and I think 69,
Yeah, that's about right.
and there's many people, and I view us as
On the
kind of,
cusp of, what do they say? The cusp of.
yes, we're on the
Yeah.
cusp, and so we kind of connect a bit with both generations, but we often we're almost observers in a way because we're from a smaller number of people. um, we're often tend to become commentators. In many ways,
Hmm.
we kind of both are, and you in a very interesting way. So anyway, when I was about 11, I was watching TV. We were living in New Zealand, and I came across Jimi Hendrix. There was he'd just died apparently, and there was a documentary on him, and I was just blown away by his music. And I saw they were playing clips from live at Berkeley, and there was protests outside to do with politics. He was playing a song about machine guns. He was making it sound like dive bombs. His guitar and playing with his teeth, and then they showed clips of him burning his guitar, and I thought, man, I literally thought at age 11, I want to do this for my job one day, playing music. Now, of course,
Were you taking an instrument yet?
yes, I'd just started playing guitar, and so I immediately went and got my nylon string guitar and tried to emulate Jimi Hendrix.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Not realizing you needed Marshall stacks and electric guitars and lots of volume.
Right.
So anyway,
Time.
and again, this is building up to allowing you to take over, but it's just interesting. So then I became obsessed with guitar playing, of course, and I remember then really liking wide variety of music. But I saw, or when the album was released, the song "Walk This Way." I think Aerosmith and Run DMC. And
Yeah, Ronnie did a remake of it with
Yes.
featuring Aerosmith. They did a remake of Aerosmith's song featuring Aerosmith.
featuring Aerosmith, that's right. And that suddenly opened my eyes to a genre of music I had not fully been aware of.
Wow.
But I suddenly saw the connections of the hip hop music back to Jimi Hendrix, back to those riots, and I suddenly thought, this is a kind of music that is speaking on behalf of a disenfranchised group of people, and it's speaking to music, art, humor, anger, politics, media. And wow, I just kind of really started getting into it again as more of a lover of music and a lover of supporting anyone that is being suppressed and people that are speaking out for it. And
So I think what you're saying to mean that you made it part of your palette. It doesn't necessarily mean that you became a hardcore hip hop head or fanatic.
Yeah.
But that this hip hop or aspects of it or select recording became part of the world of things that you were listening to.
Exactly.
And that was your entry point. Your entry point was that Run DMC record,
Yeah.
Walk This Way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And around that time, I also really got into Eric Clapton and the blues. I saw him live. I got very much into
You got into Run DMC before you got into Eric Clapton?
No, I was into Eric Clapton beforehand. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah.
If you're a guitar player, right?
But around that age, though, I was old enough to go to gigs, and so I was able to kind of start seeing some of the Eric Claptons and everyone from
You started seeing them
Neil
live.
Young, seeing them live when they'd come to Australia,
Oh, amazing.
and yeah, but this palette of music. But then I started getting into Public Enemy and just thinking, wow, these guys, because they were sampling interesting drum rhythms, amazing lyrics. And I remember really liking a song called Don't Believe the Hype. And I remember hearing them talk about a journalist, Harry Allen. And I started following a little bit of this Harry Allen whenever I could back in the day when you had no access to what we've got nowadays. In fact, it wasn't really till the late 90s that I got to read what I now know was You.
Oh, great.
And that's blown my mind because, and that's where this big preamble has led, that I already became very interested in what you were doing based on that song, and then reading
Wow.
some of your amazing. You wrote a really interesting. I don't know when it was. Muso brain kind of makes time a little bit confused, but it was about Eminem and
Okay.
racism, appropriation of the music, and that sort of
I
stuff.
wrote a piece for the Source magazine on
Yeah,
Eminem. And that was in 2002, and
right.
one that's kind of traveled ahead of me. A lot of people have read it before
Yeah,
they've met me, so
yeah.
that might be the one you're talking
That
about.
was me. And it was really late 90s that I started to be able to access a lot of your material
Wow.
through internet stuff. And so this big long build up, it's so funny that when Jill says Harry Allen, I didn't put the two and two together that it was the Harry Allen from this whole back history that I'd already had. So hopefully viewers then get the idea of, okay, we get why Pete's a bit blown away by this.
Well, I wouldn't count on it, but what I'll say is that um, it's interesting that this is one of the few fora, probably in my life, where I'm appearing both as a journalist, as a writer, as a person who covers hip hop culture, who's written about it, and as a Seventh Day Adventist.
I know.
Usually they're separate and
Yeah.
they're widely separate. So I'll be in one situation where people know me as a writer, or I'll be in another situation where they know me as a fellow Christian. But
Yeah.
rarely do the two meet.
Yeah.
So I'm eager or happy to talk about, whatever
Yeah.
you would like.
Yeah, well, that excites me too because I feel like I've lived these parallel lives where I've been
Yeah.
essentially a secular musician since about 1983, and definitely playing music, gospel ministry as well. But the
Right.
two were just very separate journeys,
Yes,
and
either on
so
purpose or by accident or
uh,
for whatever
in
reasons.
many
Yeah.
ways on purpose because in the 80s particularly I was playing lots of kind of rock music and long hair and we were playing pubs and all sorts of venues, and I
Wow.
knew I knew that particularly by the late '80s, not so much in the early '80s, but I knew that that was kind of frowned upon.
Wow.
I'm really in many ways developed a subculture of community of musicians and friends that were from all walks of life, from Christian, Adventist, you name it. I said to you before we started the interview, it's like Music Nation, where we're just musicians and we're
And
interested in
that's the
music.
language, that's the common bond
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the
that's right.
attracting
Yeah,
force, so to
yeah.
speak.
So
Must be amazing.
I didn't try and hide it,
Right.
but I wouldn't say on the Friday night while I was doing a Vespers acoustic song, which I love, old hymns even, I'd be doing that kind of stuff. I wouldn't be saying, oh, and tomorrow night, after Sabbath, come and join me at the Bay Hotel. I'll be doing a 60s, 70s vintage rock show.
Wow. Buddy, interesting. I,
So,
I think, speaking for myself, I think I've gone through various stages in terms of how I've talked about my faith or in what ways, I know it's really varied over time, I guess I'd say.
yeah, yeah, there's no real defining line, is there, where you've gone, this is this, and this is over here. They do
Well,
sometimes
I think
blend.
it, I think it's changed and moved depending on circumstance, how I see what I'm doing, and what I see, and by that I mean, so for example, these days, and it's been this way probably for a few years now. Whenever I can't do something on Sabbath, um, I don't just say to the person if I'm by email, I'm not available that day. I'll say I practice Seventh Day Adventism and
Right.
keep Sabbath as a day of worship. And this is almost boilerplate that they
Yeah.
put in there. And usually no one comments. They just like
Yeah.
go on and do what
Yeah.
they do. They don't say, oh, that's weird. Or they don't say, oh, that's beautiful. They don't say anything about it. I think a
No.
lot of people are probably embarrassed that I brought this up. So they start seeming personal, but
Yeah.
it usually it's usually an adequate excuse for not doing it. And I don't know how many people might be affected by it. or at least hearing about it and thinking, well, that's something I heard about. So the next time someone says Sabbath, they might say, I met someone once who told me about Sabbath.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I know that at least one colleague, and this is fascinating, he's a Muslim. He's a Muslim by practice, but he says he now keeps Sabbath because of what I said to him once about
Wow.
taking Sabbath off. And he says this is now part of his practice.
Yeah.
Which I just think is amazing.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying, Peter, is that how I talk about my faith, or even what my objectives are of doing so in a given moment, I think have definitely developed. And I'm not saying they're ideal or what God wants. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I know that they've changed as I have.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's interesting if you look at a person's life, and I think a lot of people do this incorrectly with Ellen White. They don't view a life as it evolves and goes from point A to point B. Imagine if they dropped into, one day, one article, Harry Allen said this, and then formed an opinion of you through your whole life that must have been what you were like. It's important. And I got to interview George Knight the other day, and it was really fascinating because.
Oh, is that up yet?
It is up, yeah.
Oh,
I think it's the one before this one, and
Looking forward to seeing that.
he constantly brings back to context, and I think it's important.
I think it's completely absent for the way most people talk about Ellen White. I mean, as a person, I don't know if you were raised in Adventism, like if you were born into it.
Born and bred.
So was I. And I think from my experience that this is not the Adventists do not talk about Ellen White as a sequence.
No.
They talk about Ellen White as an edifice.
Yeah.
So it's like Sister White even said this.
Yeah.
And many things that Sister White said are repeated, and many things she said are never cited at all.
Yeah.
And so what we know, and certainly we don't talk about, Sister White said this early in her life, but later in her life she said this. You never hear Sister White contextualized that way, in my experience, in terms of the common church experience. This is something more people will talk about when they analyze what she said or what she wrote. So you're absolutely correct in terms of talking about Ellen White in terms of her development over time. I think that's very much the case.
Yeah, yeah. And I just want to highlight, not because I know that you won't. You're very you're humble, but I just want to highlight to people that are watching your contribution to the music scene, particularly your narration, commentary, journalism, insights around the Public Enemy and hip hop scene are monumental. Like, I just want people that are watching purely to know that, because in this life that you've led, where you're saying today's kind of a day where we talk about both things, I'm just keen for people to know that this is a massive kind of thing, that you've contributed to a very powerful form of music, and and we're not going to kind of go there very much, but I just wanted people to know that. I bet the day,
very kind,
and I bet the day that you, I don't know if you knew beforehand. I'll just quickly read the lyric. I played it to my daughter this morning. Because she said, "Who are you interviewing today, Daddy?" She's only 7. And she said, "I'm interviewing a guy called Harry Allen. And he's even mentioned, if we ask Google, Google, play this song, you'll hear his name." And so we played the song, and I wrote down the lyric because I thought I'd share it today. And I'd love you to expand on, did you know that it was going to come out, or did you just suddenly hear the song? But I'll read it first. Okay. And I guess this would be Chuck D singing on this.
Chuck D, he speaks first, and then Flavor follows.
Oh, okay. So so Flavor's saying the actual line that comes.
So I'm going to my media assassin, Harry Allen. I got to ask him. That's Chuck. And then Flavor says, "Yo, Harry, you're a writer. Are we that tight?"
Yeah.
You hear my voice, actually. My voice says, "Don't believe the hype."
That's your voice that comes in on there.
It's filtered a bit, but it's me.
That's amazing.
And so that starts to answer your question. I did know this was going to happen, but I didn't know it would become like a hip-hop kind of catchphrase. I didn't expect any of that. I didn't expect it. In fact, the night I recorded it and I came home and told my mother, she said, "Did you get paid for it?" She didn't understand. This is an honorific. Actually, it's like a thing of honor to be asked to do that on another artist's record. And I've been on a lot of artists' records since then.
You probably sampled a lot too.
Well, I guess a certain amount. I'm not sure, but I know it all goes back to this. And as I often say to Chuck, you were doing God's work by putting me on that record. And people who know me know I don't say that lightly. I don't use God's name casually.
No.
I really mean it, because I've gotten more opportunities, met more people. So many people have heard of me before I meet them. Who wouldn't have, because my name is on this 1987 record that's become a classic of hip hop culture. You know, and I know, speaking for myself, that so much of my work has to do with like people knowing who you are. They know who you are, they'll often deal with you more surely or quickly than if they don't. And that record has done a lot of the advanced work for me.
It opened doors for you.
Open doors for me is a great way of putting it, Peter. And I say that it was God. That was God's doing. I don't know how else I ended up there. I mean, I know the guys. These are my guys. You know,
I know.
These are my friends. But it was just a great thing to happen. And to this day on Twitter, I have people all the time going, you know, "Yo, Harry, you're a writer. Are we that tight?" And I tweet back to them, D period, B period, T period, H period. It's just those four, that acronym. People love it. And sometimes people say, "Harry, you get sick of it?" I'm like, never. Never get sick of it. I mean, it's been a long 35 years nearly now. That record came out nearly 35 years in this. Like that.
Amazing.
People still respond to it as you responded to it. It's just like really, and maybe now your daughter.
I know, and now she's heard it. She's dancing around the room.
Yeah, exactly.
She calls all music that makes you dance fashion music.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That sounds like the kind of title only a 7-year-old will come up with. I love it. Fashion music. That's great. I may start to use that.
Was it from It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back?
Yes, that track was on It Takes a Nation of Millions, which was PE's second album. The first was called Yo Bummers to Show. That's right. And that came out in 1987. Don't Believe the Hype came out in I think it was 1988 actually. But I'm not positive about the single, because the album came out first and the single was released before it. But it was on the 1988 album. I said 87 before, I may be incorrect.
88, yeah. Now, I was into the Beastie Boys around the same time as well. Right. And so it's funny that so you listen to lyrics, often
he opened for the Beastie Boys back then. And Chuck gives the Beastie Boys a lot of credit for introducing Public Enemy to the audience, to the hip hop, and also, I guess you might say, the so-called mainstream audience. Beastie Boys had PE on tour a lot of to a great extent for a good number of opening dates. So,
because I find that I often listen to the lead guitar solos of music, and then I'll listen to beats and rhythms and chord changes. But with hip hop and that kind of music, you find yourself propelled into the lyrics, and and so that's the irony of hearing that lyric where they mention your name, that I then kind of started exploring your work when I could as it became available.
Oh, cool.
And then ironically, 35 years later, here we are on SDAQ&A.
By Desmond Ford, of all people.
Yes, I know. So can we dig a little bit into how you got to know Des and Jill, and then explore a little bit of some of your Adventist roots, because I find it fascinating that an Adventist gets involved with hip hop. Like, I love it. I love it, because there are a lot
of us here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your meeting Jill and Des, and then backtrack a little bit into your early years of being an Adventist, and what kind of formed the narrative of your desire to follow hip hop and writing, and unpack a little bit of that for us.
Well, I have to go into the the my emails to see what the precise year was. I think it was 2008. Was it 2007? There's a university called Macquarie, right?
Oh yeah.
And I was invited there with one of my mentors, Dr. Raymond Winbush, for a discussion on racism. And racism, I don't know if it was particularly about this issue, but it seems that in Australia, whenever the subject of racism is discussed, it's either related to or oriented around the issue of Aboriginal, or as I say, original Australians, and how they are treated and or mistreated. But I also realized that where we were going to be on this trip, in this stay, that I would be in the area where Desmond Ford lived. And so I reached out to his daughter and asked if it might be possible for me to be put in contact with him, because I'd like to interview him while I was there in Australia. And she kind of fielded this request and then put me in contact with Jillian. And then when I was there, I was able to meet him and her first, and then him at their home. So I guess what that means is that I met Des Ford exactly once, which is wild when I think about it, because he had been such a part of, I guess you might say, my thinking. But then after that, like, so when I let me just cut to the end of meeting Des. Towards the end of our time, he made a vegetarian meal for me, and included some scrambled eggs, which I appreciated. And he fast walked back to my hotel, not because he was trying to get rid of me, but because that's the way he walks.
What he does.
And we were having a conversation. I remember at some point asking if I could stay in touch with him via email, and he pretty much said no. Which I so appreciated, because it's like he was saying, "Oh yeah," and then I would write him, and then I'd not hear from him. He said no. He didn't say flat out no, but he said so many words, "No, that would not be a good idea," because he gives his time to research, and he's very busy. And so, which I appreciate. I appreciate him saying, "You will write me, and you won't hear from me."
Yeah.
And so what I learned to do was kind of field my requests through Jillian, who would pass them on. And then he would usually write back 1 or 2 sentences. And so that was great. But it's amazing to think that that I only met Des that day. It's so wild that it just occurs to me, because from that time he just kind of lived in my thinking and in my ideas, and and I had so much interchange with him, over time, despite even and certainly a lot more, and since the sad passing of Desmond Ford, Dr. Desmond Ford, my communication with Jillian, his wife, just continues to be like just a blessing, in my heart and in my mind. But I met them, I reached out to them, Peter, because I had started to become very interested in his ideas around prophecy. And I did not really know as much, I guess, as I would about him, or even about Glacier View. Like I said, when Glacier View happened, I was just pubescent. I was just in my early teens. And I didn't even really understand what was going on. And I remember having this conversation with my dad, because I saw a picture, I think it was in Newsweek magazine, a picture of Des, and it might have been Time, I'm not sure, it was a picture of him, and they were talking about this eruption that had happened in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And of course, if there was one thing I even knew then, it was really weird and rare for Seventh-day Adventists to get covered in a national news weekly. So I think I asked my father what this was about, and what was this guy talking about that would make the church react this way. Like, what I detected was that they had some kind of big discussion and that he had been fired. So and my dad, what I remember is my dad trying to explain not the theology, but basically what I took away was that they had tried to convince him, but he wouldn't agree, and they had to let him go. That was pretty much what it came down to.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't walk away from that with a thing of like, oh, this must be a bad guy. It was just like, what was it all about still? And I think it was that as I got older and began to not have doubts about Adventism, because I am still a practicing Seventh-day Adventist, and I probably will be the rest of my life. But as I often say to people, I have the ability to hold opposing ideas in my mind at the same time. And I think it was that I started, and I'd have to think really why this happened. I was starting to have questions and doubts about the theology of the remnant church. This idea that you hear all your life that Adventists are the remnant church. And part of the proof of that is that we have the spirit of prophecy, and that the Bible predicts this. So in a certain sense, that Adventism is kind of written into the Bible or coded into it. And this was kind of like a grounding idea that you accept. It's connected to your notions of prophecy, which, as we know, is Adventism's main shtick. It's coded to our notions of Ellen White, who we know is the prophet of God. But I was having doubts about this idea, and then started to think about it, read, study, and write. And I think questioning that particular doctrine made me start to seriously think about what I had been taught and told. And I think over time, this kind of led me to seeing the work of and reading more about Dr. Desmond Ford, and then Glacier View, and then wanting to meet Des and everything that followed.
What kind of year time frame were you starting to ask your dad those questions? I guess that magazine article was about 84, I think. Yeah, about 1984, I think that was.
So Glacier View was 1980.
Yeah,
so,
and that
so
article
came
came out
then.
Yeah. Wow.
You think? Okay. I don't think it came out 4 years later. I had the impression that this was contemporaneous with Glacier View.
Yeah, that article came out, I think, around 84, and I think it was talking about Des Ford. It was saying Adventism at the crossroads, and there was Des Ford, Davenport, plagiarism, all in the one article.
Really? Are we talking about the same piece?
I think so. It's a Time magazine or Newsweek's around 83, 84.
Because there was another piece called The Church of Liberal Borrowings, and that piece was about Walter Ray and the White Lie.
Yeah, okay.
That was another Adventist piece. I can't really say the date. I think we'd have to, it seems 84 seems too late for something that happened in 80.
Yeah.
Like this was contemporaneous with Glacier View.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, but I guess I would say I was maybe 14 or so. In 1980, I would have been 14.
Yeah.
So it was probably around that time period.
So the early 80s, you're coming across this stuff that's making you question a little bit, not your faith in God, but you're kind of going, has what I been taught actually what happened?
No. It didn't have any impact on my thinking or my faith. And I appreciate you asking about this so I can clarify. It was just something that registered.
Right.
So one of the things I've learned recently that's come home to me is that when we witness to people, our job is not to convert them. Our job is just to tell what we believe by faith. And many times if you do that, the person that you're speaking to will just say, no thanks, not interested. And sometimes that's all you're supposed to do. All you're supposed to do is just leave a dent, a small dent. So the next time when they have some place to put what you said to them, they can say, I've heard about Adventists before.
Yeah.
Or I've heard about salvation by, justification by faith, or whatever it is that you talk to them about.
Yeah.
So what I would say is that when I saw this story about Des, it just registered Des Ford and a challenge to the church's ideas, just some kind of discontent.
Right.
Because as an Adventist, what you're always taught, essentially what came home to me is that our theology was perfect. It was flawless. It had no errors in it.
Yeah.
It was all true, all biblical. A whole part of Adventist lore when you're growing up are the stories of the preachers who take on the discontented people of the aggressive people of other denominations and back them down with their logic,
Yeah.
Well, sir, have you considered this verse? And then the person says, gee, I didn't. And he goes back and studies, and he can't stop thinking about what he's heard. And eventually he goes back and wants to become an Adventist. These are part of the stories we tell ourselves. And if you're a young kid, you just believe what you've heard all your life. But then they hear a high-ranking Adventist thinker,
Yeah.
said something about our denomination's ideas was wrong, and he was ejected. And
Yeah.
that just made like a little. There was like a sand in the oyster's eye. It was
Yes, I
it
get it.
just sat there. It just
Yeah.
sat there until I could make more sense of it later through my own exploration.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the same with me. We were both too young to fully comprehend,
Yes.
but we went, hang on, something's going on here. And as I said to you off,
Yeah, it's something, whatever it is.
yeah,
It's a flaw, because if you're told the doctrines are perfect,
yeah,
then this should never happen.
that's right.
No one should ever contradict them. No one should ever say
That's
blah.
right.
So
And
yeah,
the interesting thing with here in Australia, and I'm not sure if it was the same for you, but we lost lots of young ministers at the time. So from 81 through to 87, for example, and I think mainly 83, 84, there was a big kind of purge.
and you mean after
After Glacier View, we
Yeah, it
lost.
was a bloodbath in your country. I think people walked away here, but I don't think it was the way it was in SPD, like where
Yeah.
it was like it was like the scene at the end of Attack of the Revenge of the Sith, Order 66. It's like they just went, they just got all the Jedi, man. It's like, oh, I think it was a different. I think in your country they were like,
Yeah,
clean. What did Palpatine say? Wipe them out.
wipe them out.
All of them. He's like, that's what they went after. I'm not making light of what the pastors went through,
Oh,
but
no.
they went after you guys, pastors, man.
This
They
is
said,
what I
clean shop.
Oh,
Clean
yeah.
shop, wipe the floor, make it as though
Yeah.
no one was ever here.
And that's what I like about a lot of the hip hop kind of music. There's laughter and comedy, and even references
Yeah.
to Star Wars, actually.
Yeah, you're pulling from everywhere to make
yeah.
your point.
And it can be a serious point, and that's why I really love that analogy. And I love the analogy where you're saying it was a little bit like the in the oyster, the little speck that caused the irritation.
Sand, there's sand in the oyster, right? Yeah.
But a beautiful
There's a
pearl
pearl there.
can come from that. And I guess for me, when that time period happened, my generation, and I think in America there was the same number of ministers that left. I think about 200. Here we had about 180. And you think about the
It
ramifications.
may have been the same, but we have a bigger country.
That's what I mean, yeah.
So that probably was a smaller proportion of them.
Exactly. Yeah.
I really don't know what the numbers were at all.
When you have, like, I think at the time, I don't know how many Adventists were in Australia at the time, but the impact of 180 on a small group is way different to 200 people
Absolutely.
in a big group.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the per capita, we were just hugely damaged. And I
really think Australia really needed a Truth and Reconciliation Committee,
yeah.
or some kind of like post-traumatic stress
Oh yeah.
syndrome treatment after
Yeah.
that. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that the church or our denomination has given enough attention
No.
to what Australian people went through at that time period
no.
for those reasons. Because for everyone who left or who was ejected, you're talking about congregations
Yes.
that were many times left behind that had to like ratify this
Yeah.
and say, like, well, what happened and why?
Yeah.
He was a good man, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So it was suppressed, put under the carpet. Think of the ministers, their wives, their kids. A massive group of people were hurt and just cast aside, and there was no follow up, there was no counselling, there was no, hey, let's help you through this adjustment.
No explanation.
Yeah. And so my next generation above me, the boomers that would have been influencing and mentoring, were gone. We literally had to kind of stumble around and find our own path. And that's why
Wow.
your and my generation kind of were going, what happened? And we kind of observed this stuff. And fortunately, later on, we began to look back at it.
I think though with Australians it's more intense.
It
I
is,
think,
yeah.
I have a feeling that there are probably more Australian people per generation who remember Des, who knew of the controversy at least. I think in this country, to a great extent, it's a disappeared kind of issue.
Yeah.
I don't think that there are a lot of people my age who are wondering about Glacier View.
Right.
What happened there? I think it's part of. It's not even part of ancient history.
Yeah. In many ways, probably 6 to 8 years ago, I would say Adventist young people here were the same, but but a bunch of people my age were like, hang on, we don't want to let this go. And with the advent of social media, we were able to kind of do some, not promotion, but just talk about it. And about 6 years ago, maybe, a couple of years before, maybe 4 years before Des passed, we organised him to come to Kurumbong and do a talk. And he'd been to Kurumbong many times over the years. But this particular day, it kind of resonated because by now a lot of young people did know a bit about it. And there were over 350 people turned up. And I remember there were young Adventist pastors it was a Uniting Church we hired. That's I don't think you have Uniting Church over there, but they're an amalgamation of Presbyterian and Methodist. In the 60s, they joined together and called themselves the Uniting Church.
And so this was a building that was rented. Is that what you're saying?
Rented, yes, because we weren't
allowed to speak in Adventist churches.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'd been promised by the local high school. I knew the principal there very, very well. He said, "There's no way they're going to cancel it from the school. I've got this covered. Don't you worry about it." But literally a week before, I got a message from the conference president on my phone saying, "You will not have Des Ford on Adventist soil."
Yeah. Was that the language? Did he say soil?
His soil, yeah.
Soil? Oh, that's precious.
And apparently when they were trying to have a Des Ford memorial at Avondale College, last minute they got the same words, Des Ford not allowed on Adventist soil. So there's a big thing about this soil. And in a recent...
So in other words, at this point, he's deceased. But we're not even going to have a memorial. We can't have a gathering where we discuss him.
Yeah.
We can't even discuss him.
Yeah.
So this is pornographic, basically. This is like a pornographic, really, approach to one's own history.
Yeah. Ironic that I said to the conference president, bringing back to hip hop, I said, "But you run hip hop dance classes every Sunday night in the school hall, but you won't allow Des Ford to speak at the school."
Even I would catch the irony of that.
So we.
What did he say, by the way?
Nothing. Literally, there just went silence on the phone. Anyway, he's not going to be there. And but what was interesting is that these young Adventists were going into the crying room of the Uniting Church Hall there, where there's a speaker, like the baby room for if there's young babies crying, they have a room at the back of the church.
They call it the mother's room.
Mother's room, right? And they're in there, and I opened the door because I could hear, and there's like 5 or 6 young Adventist theology students watching from the. And I just
what were they watching?
The Des Ford talk. So Des took the church service that morning for Sabbath, and he took the afternoon. It was our very first SDAQ&A meeting, actually, and he was in the afternoon meeting, and I just thought, isn't it why do we have to be covert about just listening to someone talk? And someone that has had a beautiful influence on the church.
See, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think one of the things I'm trying to do with this podcast and with the interviews is create a platform and a resource so that if young people, wherever they are in the world, go, I do want to know a little bit about that. This is a 30-second interview on the Glacier View theme, and all interviews are at least 2.5 hours long. There's plenty of information for people that no one can take down. No one can say, "Oh, you're going to lose your job, Pete, if you do this." It's just going to be there as a resource for them just to learn and make their own mind up.
Excellent. You're setting the information free, which is where it's supposed to be. People should be able to go to any Adventist minister, any Adventist level of our denomination, and ask these questions and get answers that satisfy them.
Yeah.
And that you can't makes the church look circumspect.
Yeah.
It makes the church look as though it has something to hide.
Yeah.
And they'll be the first to tell you, we don't have anything to hide.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you say, Des can't be discussed in memoriam on this soil, which is just grand. It's just like, wow, you should get a button for that.
At our local.
I hope the person who said that is watching this.
Oh, look, I hope he is.
I doubt it, but
I'll tag him.
yeah,
I'll
please.
tag him in.
That's because that was rich.
I've got it in writing too because he also sent an email to the principal, and the principal was very apologetic to me. He said, "Look, I really thought this wasn't going to be a problem.
Right.
Um, I'm just hiring the hall off them like anybody can, like the hip hop dance class person can." I'm loving that we can merge the two, the your experience with the hip hop phenomenon, culture, music, and everything with Adventism. It's just fascinating. So I want to now just cross back to the Public Enemy era. So that's around '85. But you went to college with Chuck D. Was it an
Yeah,
Adventist
Edmond
college?
College. No, it was
No.
Adelphi University in
Right.
Garden City, Long Island. Chuck had been there already, and I was just entering. I
Yeah.
was in my freshman year when I met him there.
So here's another kind of irony or paradox. You're dealing with a very like you kind of took on the term media assassin, and
Yes.
I love that because again it has that Public Enemy they were attacking the media in the States for many of the biased presentations, and but they all had really cool names that were kind of like from the cartoon comic era. And so Media Assassin, when taken that name from, and tell me if I'm wrong, but from that perspective is awesome because it's funny, it's erudite, it's saying that you're an assassin that's going to attack the media with great precision, but it's also like I'm choosing a cool name as well. I love that blend. But in all that,
You said it, I think you said it perfectly. I think you said you actually used some of the phraseology that I've used myself
oh
to explain.
really?
Yeah.
I,
Precision is a word that I use to talk about it.
yeah,
A cool name is very important in hip hop. It's very important that you have,
yeah,
J. Rue the Damager. And it's not spelled Damager. It's
yeah,
Damaja.
yeah.
J. Rue the Damager. That's like you got to have Flavor Flav. I mean, hip
I
hop
know.
is cool monikers, cool names are important.
Yeah,
And Media Assassin is what I called myself before I was associated with PE.
yeah,
But it's all around the same time, and it fit very well
yeah,
with their ideas because we saw media, especially as it was run, and I would say that there is a difference now, but of a kind
yeah,
that we saw media as disinheriting
yeah,
Black people
yeah,
and hostile to our interests
yeah, yeah.
and incredibly white, which
Yes.
it remains.
Yeah.
It's a tinge darker in terms of the number of non-white people who are part of it, but not enough. And certainly, the higher up you go in media, the
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
white it becomes. The less non-white voices are heard, non-white goals or impetuses or beliefs or concerns
Yeah.
are heard. It's essentially a, a huge data source and voice about Black people
Yeah.
organized by white people
Yeah.
about Black people.
Yeah. I know. I know.
It was that we found offensive.
And
Much as I'm sure in your own country,
yeah.
original people probably play very little
Yes.
role in media,
Yeah.
especially national media,
Yeah.
especially the higher up in the ranks you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
These are white enterprises.
Yeah.
And some people would say, well, what's wrong with that? And then I can say, well, it's like anything. Like, what if you lived in a white neighborhood and tomorrow you woke up and it was filled with original people or
Yeah.
filled with African Americans and all your white friends were gone? What would be wrong
Yeah.
with that? Most
Yeah.
people wouldn't live in that neighborhood. Most white people wouldn't stay in a neighborhood like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
They would find a way to get out.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I many times we have what's called Black History Month here, which is in February, where all the media, all the news, all the stories are about Black people and their history, and white people have a difficulty kind of like feigning interest by the time we're getting close to the end of the month. But then I say, like, imagine if Black History Month were every day of the year, where you could
Yeah.
never escape it.
Yeah.
I said that's how it feels for Black people.
Yeah.
That's what normalcy feels like
Yeah.
for Black people.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's like a white history month you can't escape.
Yes.
And so I think there's a word that's being pushed around called equity. That the word equity, as it pertains to race, but the word I prefer is justice. And I think that what we are calling for, what we've always wanted, was justice, and that's kind of like the approach. that when you say media assassin, I'm talking about media justice, basically, and the assassin is just a way of talking about equalizing
Yeah.
the situation.
Yeah. And look, how fascinating that the current climate in America right now and globally is as hot as it was in the 80s and 60s as far as activism goes, and this very topic that you're talking about.
Well, I think because it's being cooked by a pandemic also right now. I
Yes,
think the
yeah.
pandemic, it's like like that's it's like that's like that scene in A Few Good Men where Jack Nicholson's character says, uh, "Pardon me, Lieutenant." I think he says, "I'm a fair guy, but this heat is making me absolutely crazy." And I think that's what's
It
going on
heightens
right
it. It brings it out. Yeah,
this
that's
heat,
very
this
true.
pandemic is making people
I
absolutely
th-
crazy. I don't think that with the murder of George Floyd, I'm not sure that it would have sparked the outrage it did if everybody had multiple other things to do and were going to and from their jobs. I think the fact that everyone was home and isolating and doing all the things you do when the air is evil,
yeah,
that had a lot to do with this eruption that occurred, you
yeah,
know, and for with good cause. I think that what's happening now is excellent in a
yeah,
certain sense.
yeah,
I think these issues should get this kind of attention. I think the feelings you're seeing are the feelings that have been repressed. I think
yeah.
what you're seeing is it's almost like if you pierced a pressure cooker with a nail, like the force that would come out of it would be incredibly disruptive. It might the container might explode actually, probably would actually. And that's what it feels like. I think what you're seeing are emotions and feelings, ideas, issues that have been pent up inside of
Yes,
people, and now there's a way for them to come forth, and
yeah.
that's what the volume is. The volume is the sound of all of this eruption happening.
It's like the voice of the media assassin is has an opportunity to be just as relevant again now as you were in the late 80s with that culture.
I
The,
think I think that so it's interesting because I've I've I think so. One, I think there's another generation of young people who are describing the issues that they see in their terms, and I don't imagine that I can speak for them. Maybe I can speak with them if there's a reason to do so. And then also in terms of relevance, I've lived with myself all of these years. So what I've been doing is thinking about, writing about, speaking about, the issues that are relevant to me. And I think what you're saying and what I certainly feel is like this is like the first time in a long time where I feel like what's outside and going on in the world
yeah.
has caught up in the
Yes.
way, the kind
Yes.
of what I've been talking about or thinking about.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So,
You haven't gone into hibernation, but
yeah,
what you're spotlighting is now also being spotlighted once more,
by
like it
others.
by others, like it was in the late 80s,
Yeah,
like it was in the late 60s. The kind of
yeah,
suddenly there's these moments where you're continuing on with your passion for activism, equality, justice, and every now and again the globe, the mainstream as we called it earlier, are suddenly back into watching it as well, which
yeah.
then
It
magnifies,
realigns in a way.
yeah, realigns, and then kind of elevates what you're saying all along again.
Right.
And I'm glad I got the media
For however
assassin.
long that happens.
I'm glad I got the media assassin thing right, because that was kind of something that I came to on my own kind of recognizance back in the day, back in the 80s and 90s. So I'm glad I kind of got it. And if we're looking at that time period, late 80s, the I guess the would you say that hip hop was speaking for a disenfranchised young black community, males particularly?
Chuck called it Black People's CNN. And I always thought that was a really good analogy, both in the sense of the fact that it did connect wide swaths of people who were otherwise not connected. CNN was a 24-hour news network that went not only national, but international, and helped people get the same information at once. And I thought hip hop was a lot like that. That hip hop helped even the people who made it hear from other people who also made it in their parts of the world and in their parts of the United States. It connected people who were otherwise disconnected. But I also thought there was another way in which the analogy was appropriate, and that was when CNN was started, the conventional wisdom was that it would not last. They used to say that the CNN stood for the Chicken Noodle Network. And people, all the naysayers were more plenteous than those who saw it as a boon. Ted Turner was told, it's the CNN and the iPhone got the same advanced reviews from experts. And this is not going to last. There's no room for this. It's going to be a flop. And hip hop was also told that. People, the conventional wisdom when hip hop started was that it was a fad and it would go away. It was a fad and it would go away. No one was saying back in 1979 when Rappers Delight came out that this is going to one day be most young people's popular music. This is what most young people are going to mean when they turn on the radio. This is what when they say, I want to listen to the radio, they're going to mean Little Boozy. No one would have imagined that back then. And the idea was that hip hop was a Macarena. It was just basically a goofy record, Rappers Delight. Cute, and that'll be over. Nada. That's not what happened. No. And so I think yes, I think it was a way to connect absolutely young Black males, especially for us to talk about our lives, to be heard, to be seen. There wasn't certainly any place in mainstream society where people were saying, well, let's see what a Black guy thinks about this. Yeah. Like there just really wasn't any place that you typically did that. Yeah. That you typically went and you might, if there were a fire in a Black neighborhood, turn to some Black guy. Yeah. Because he lived there and say, what did you see? Yeah. But you weren't being sought out as an expert. Your views weren't taken seriously. And especially if you complained about racism, you're told that didn't sound plausible. Yeah, and so hip hop became the network. Hip hop became the internet. It was the internet of ideas before there was an internet or a World Wide Web for Black people. To maybe modify Chuck's analogy a little bit.
Yeah, I've often thought if Des Ford, and if the church hadn't been so successful in purging its supporters of him, if he'd had someone that was fighting for him, things would have been different. And I see that parallel with you and hip hop. You articulated their message as a journalist to a wide audience. Like I almost see you as a member of the band, where you were.
So did Chuck.
Yeah, and like you were taking the story and articulating it in a way. Now, with Adventism, when people tried to articulate the Des story, they were fired or kicked out or ostracized. So did you get pressure as well?
Such an amazing point you're making. Because, I mean, think about it. I often say, this was radical. Yeah. Chuck D said, we have a hip-hop crew, and one of our members is a journalist. Yeah. It's like putting a journalist in the Beatles or a journalist in Led Zeppelin. Like, why would you even do that? You know? But Chuck was saying that we want someone who can speak to media as a media scientist, as a person who's working in the field, who can say that this is why this story is not balanced. Yeah. Or this is why your sources here are not good sources.
It's like a public relations kind of job.
Well, at one point, I actually did serve as director of enemy relations for Public Enemy.
Yes, I've read about the enemy relations.
Yes. But the idea of having of being a media assassin in the context of Public Enemy had more to do with media discontent.
Yeah,
It had more to do with us being dissatisfied with how Black life was discussed in mainstream media.
Yeah.
And I think, to your point, I think Dez was just too much of a gentleman. And I don't mean too much for God. I mean too much for this world.
Yes.
I mean, like, Dez was not the person who was going to rant and rave about himself or go out there. I wish he had someone say to the church, "I'll see you in court." I wish there had been someone who would agitate it on his behalf. But maybe it wasn't supposed to be that way. Maybe Dez's legacy was to do what he did, which was to speak his piece, to make his case. Because it's like this, Peter. Like, in a way, it's like they say, like I wouldn't want to be a member of the place that would have me.
Yeah.
It's like, in a way, that the fact that Dez said this is what's correct, and they said, well, that's great. Let's toss that aside and we'll agree to these 10 points and then get you out. Yeah. Like, you really don't want to be a part of a group that deals that way.
Yeah.
Because the fact that they ejected him showed that, like, we probably should part ways.
Yeah.
So maybe it was better that way. Maybe it was better that because when you read about Dez's interactions with people, everyone said the same thing. He's a gentleman. No one said, oh, this guy's a scoundrel or he was a backstabber. They said he was a gentleman. He was a gentleman. He was a gentleman. No one said he ran from the room and threw his papers to the floor at Glacier View and stomped his feet. He was a perfect gentleman. And you'd rather leave on that than leave as someone who's trying to, and for Dez, his model was Christ. Yeah. Like, Christ didn't have Roy Cohn on his side telling Caesar he was going to sue him in court. Yeah. Christ went to his grave like a sheep.
Yes.
And but 2.5 billion people later.
Yeah.
2.5 billion Christians later is like, wow.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think sometimes we wish that Dez Ford had been able to kind of like, settle this in a boxing ring or something.
Yeah. Well, you made me think about a really interesting thing there. Like, so with Public Public Enemy.
Yes.
Which originally was called Public Enemy Radio, wasn't it? I think
that's the name of something that Chuck's doing now. Public Enemy Radio is the name of the project Chuck's doing now.
Because that adds to the broadcasting nature of the group.
I think so, and I also know that Chuck is doing a lot of work in streaming.
Right.
So he's always trying to combine things and reinforce things. In terms of his projects.
Yeah. You've said something there that made me really think of something that's clarified in my mind. You need the media assassin person that's going to fight on your behalf and articulate to the masses, not necessarily the Des Ford. He needed a media assassin, but not only that, you need a media assassin from your generation. So when you were writing for Public Enemy, you were part of that generation. I know in the early 80s, I wrote songs about Des Ford and about the stuff, but we had bands and we'd go do gigs and big audiences would go, whoa, what's this stuff? That's amazing. But as I said before, I'm the generation below. So it kind of fell on deaf ears, and because nearly 200 youth leaders had been kicked out, it just fizzled out. By the late 80s, there was no interest in anything that I had to say lyrically with music. Bob Wolfgram, who's someone you've met.
And the church, as you know, Peter, the church is not good about talking about its own history.
No.
I mean, for the most part, it's like church history consists of the Great Disappointment, the founders, Ellen G. White, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, they don't want to dig.
Like, nothing else happened.
Yeah.
Like, if you tell most Adventists that SDAs were not sure that Christ was truly God until the middle of the 20th century, roughly.
I know.
They would be shocked to find that out. Like Adventists were not Trinitarians until roughly around the middle of the 20th century. They didn't know for sure if Jesus Christ was part of the Godhead. But no Adventist would know this.
No, it's mind-boggling.
One, because we don't study our history,
yeah.
And two, because because our doctrines have always been there were 27 once, there are 28 now. They've always been perfect. They don't know that once there were 22, then there were 25. And we live in this eternal present and this imminent future.
Yeah,
and that's kind of like the way.
And
except
if you don't acknowledge with honesty, authenticity, and articulate your history, the good, the bad, the wrongs, the rights, then you doom yourself to every 30, 40 years repeating the same mistakes.
Doesn't matter what church you're in, or what group you're in. The amazing thing about Dez's Daniel 8:14 document, the 991-page thesis that he presented at the Glacier View, was that after kind of describing what the issue is, he starts by talking, as a scholar would, of all the Adventist scholars through time who would raise this as an issue.
Yes.
So he said, this is not my original conceit. This is something our church has been saying for decades.
Yeah.
And I'm just the latest to raise the issue.
That's
which
right.
is a powerful argument.
Yeah.
And it's something, and I think that I really think it's a good thing you've raised this point, that I don't think that most of us as a denomination have like a grasp on our history at all. Like even what our history as Adventists.
Yeah.
So we miss we miss a whole lot of the meaning of what we are, like what we actually are, as opposed to like.
And another irony there
think we are.
Yeah. Another irony there is when I have spoken about the history in these interviews, I'll sometimes get flack from the Liberals because they feel that if we just keep raising this stuff, it's just gonna end badly. And I feel like I'm trying to say, no, let's look at that stuff. Let's put a spotlight on it. Let's admit.
You're saying liberal people, Adventists say you shouldn't raise what? What is it they're saying you shouldn't raise?
I shouldn't kind of rock the boat. Stop rocking the boat, Pete.
Really?
Yeah, really. It's blown my mind.
That's hilarious.
I know. When I started,
maybe because I'm black. Maybe it's because my existence is just like discontent.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's it. I just don't understand. I don't understand like.
Well, when I started criticizing the actual SPD leaders, not by name, but just saying, look, you guys could fix this in a second. Just say we support liberal Adventists and we support conservative Adventists in our church. Just make a public statement and say that, but they won't.
Right. And in fact, such a statement would be in line with traditional Adventism, which rejected a creed until very late in the process.
Exactly.
So such a statement would be in line with traditional Adventism.
Yeah. But as soon as I criticized the leadership, I suddenly got a huge amount of flack from, I won't even go there, but particular group of progressive Adventists because...
Don't make this worse for us.
Yeah. But
that's usually a sign that you're doing the right thing.
I think, because I'm not trying to humiliate or shame anybody, but I just think this truth can withstand scrutiny, and I just happen to like asking why all the time.
Great question.
I'd love you to meet.
It's the question, Peter.
I'd love you to meet.
Why?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I've had an interview with 3 guys that I'd love you to meet. I might tag them in this interview. There's Bob Wolfgram, Harry Ballas, and Rick Ferre, and they kind of approach a lot of this from a sociological perspective. And boy, their interviews are fascinating. And in fact, Bob Wolfgram recorded an album in the late 70s, which had a huge impact on me. I think it was released in 1979. You check it out. It's on Spotify, and I'll put a link in below. And he was writing songs about the gospel. It was called All My Friends Are Sinners. He, Lol Tarling, Genelevich, and other of these kind of more the baby boomer era, late 70s, they released this album, and one of the songs is about Wagner and Jones, the whole 1888 Righteousness by Faith stuff. So instantly I'm going, well, how can I learn more about that? So I'd love you to meet these guys.
He did a song about these guys?
He wrote a song, and the album sold in the Christian community, not just the Adventist community. Like it charted. It was charting. I think possibly number one in the late 70s in the broader Christian, Christian contemporary music
It's
charts.
amazing. I'm just thinking how inside that is.
I know, and he's
It's
writing.
kinda inside, right?
Oh,
Wow.
the
Right there,
album,
toes.
the album is terrific. He did 3 albums. I'll link them below because I'd love you guys to meet. You'd really have some fascinating conversations.
Yep.
So my thought there was that, yeah, I could speak up in the 80s and with bands and talk about Des, but because I wasn't part of the generation of Des Ford, the baby boomers, my voice wasn't as impactful. Your media assassin voice, you're exactly a part of that generation. The timing was perfect. And I guess I'm lamenting that there was no media assassin there to kind of speak to the public, to the mainstream Adventists, of what actually was going on and why it was happening. And I'm trying to think, who could have been that person, and I sadly just don't think there was anyone. They were either getting kicked out or suppressed, or you're going to lose your job if you speak up. And it's just really interesting that in your own path, you got to be that person for your generation, to the music that was very relevant to you and your culture at the time.
But well, I don't want to cut you off. I wanted to respond to what you're saying, but I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, and I was just going to end that thought with, and then at the same time, you're also an Adventist with this just on your back doorstep happening, but you're also not able to really speak up at that age for that generation. But maybe now you can.
Well,
a lot of thoughts there.
Yeah. So I think the challenge finds you. I think if you're up to it, the challenge finds you. And I think probably the biggest, probably the single biggest influence on me when I think about it, in terms of the way I work. I'm going to talk about the way I work just really briefly. It is the story of Daniel 3. When on the plain of Dura, when Nebuchadnezzar builds a solid gold statue, he's basically giving God a middle finger. He's basically saying, "You think I'm going to last until these other kings come along? Forget about it. I'm lasting forever." And he threatens whoever doesn't bow down to this statue that they're going to be incinerated, basically, in one of the beautiful, monstrous clay ovens that the Babylonians were so expert at using and making. Because they're masters of ceramics. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego don't bow. And they tell the king that they're not going to bow to the image, and that their God is able to protect them. And even if he doesn't, they're still not going to bow. And that story, I think in my life that those guys form like, I look up to them in that moment the way, like, at one time people in this country looked up to John F. Kennedy, like as like a model of like what a person should be. And I think that what I took from Adventism, what I took from it very early on, was this idea of speaking to the moment and not holding back. I think that was conveyed to me. I think my parents also impressed me with that, with their ability to speak out. And I think that I took that into hip hop. I think I took that into hip hop and into my writing, that I would be forthright about what I had to say about hip hop culture, about racism, about what I thought was right and wrong, etc. I think, though, that I don't think I was the right age when Glacier View was happening.
Yeah, that's what I was meaning.
And I think that Adventism also, unless you're in a certain position in it or have figured it out, I think it's almost like yelling down an empty hallway.
Yes, exactly.
I think you have to be at a certain level of it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever been at that level.
Yeah.
I think so. Here's what I think. And the other thing is, I think there's another way you can get attention. You can get attention in Adventism, and that is if you're outside of it and start yelling about it,
Yeah.
or if you're an Adventist and start yelling to the outside world about Adventism's failures. But for that, you need someone who cares about Adventism, and Adventism is so insular and closed to itself. It's really hard. It's really hard to, I don't know, to like. It's so out of the mainstream, and it's something and more than I'm realizing. It's so odd and strange in so many ways. I can increasingly see why people think we may be a cult.
Yeah.
It's only because, one, we talk about ourselves so much. We talk about the Adventist way and what it's like to be Adventist.
Mm.
You know, I was on a Lawrence Seibold had a discussion on race the other day. One of the participants talked about the fact that she was saying to her husband, what did she say again? She said, former Adventist. That was a term she used. And he said, former Adventist? What is that? She said, like, nobody ever says former Methodist, you know? And she realized that this was just like language that Adventists use. It's just part of being Adventist, but that separates us.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know, when you said that about speaking essentially truth to power in Adventism, I just got this vision of like speaking and like everything hitting like a rubber wall.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's almost like there's no, maybe I'm just not at the, maybe it's, I've just never been at the level where anything you do or say rather, has any impact.
I agree. And I think that's where I'm coming from. The timing for you to be involved with hip hop, you were the part of that generation, that age group, that movement. You had a position in the hierarchy. You were speaking out articulately as a journalist on behalf of defending, fighting for justice. And unless you have all those stars in alignment, it's like you said, it's just talking to a wall. You don't have the position, the power, or it's speaking for a generation that you're not even part of, and that gives you no power. And I'm
a lifelong Adventist.
Yeah.
I've been to one general conference. That was in 1970.
Wow.
I've never been asked to represent any body of my whatever congregation I was in. I've never been asked to be a delegate to anywhere. So, like, what I do is I have Sabbath school and I ask questions.
Yeah.
I ask embarrassing questions about, like, you know, the things we're talking about, and that's pretty much as far as it goes.
And I guess I'm lamenting that there wasn't, and I'm not meaning you, but there wasn't a media assassin there in 1980.
Right. You like the idea. You like the idea.
Yes,
and I see what you're saying. And yes, it would have to be someone like Des.
Yeah.
But maybe with far higher and stronger survival instincts.
Yes.
And by survival instincts, I mean like the person who's going to open up his tweed jacket and show he's got a bomb. I'm taking this whole thing down with me. If Des was just too much of a gentleman to do that. You know?
Totally. And
Des did not lead the denomination seeking to get revenge.
Yeah.
You know? And he wasn't. I mean, I don't know. When he spoke at PUC, like, that was electric, but it was all about the ideas. It was all about the truth and the ideas. Yeah. And when they got rid of him, they did it in a small room. Yeah. They didn't do it in front of thousands of people. They did it like in a small meeting.
Yeah.
So, you would, you know.
I sometimes wish that Bob Brinsmead had been the one they'd taken on, because Bob has a bit of that kind of, I'm going to show you this time bomb here right now.
I don't know a lot about him, but I understand what you're saying from my little sense of who Bob Brinsmead is.
Yeah.
And from watching him the other day when you did your talk with he and Jillian, that I definitely, I can't say because I've never been in there.
No, and I can't even fairly say that either. But I just think he would have rustled up some.
He got ejected and banned before Des did. Like they said nope a lot sooner. So maybe you're absolutely right. Maybe you're right.
Oh dear. Do you know what's potentially exciting is if young people right now started writing music against the compliance document. I don't know if you know any hip hop Adventist young musicians that you could mentor and inspire. But
I
imagine if
don't know
some
if
songs
you
came
know
out.
this. I don't
No.
know if you know this, but the lead vocalists of A Tribe Called Quest were Adventists.
Right, no, I've not.
Q-Tip and the late Five Dog were both Adventists.
Really?
Yeah, of A Tribe Called Quest, but they later converted to Islam. And also he was in Leaders of the New School. Busta Rhymes
Yeah.
was an Adventist as well, and then also became a Muslim. So,
Oh,
and
wow.
there are probably other Adventist artists or former artists in hip hop. I think a lot of people who become rappers or get involved in hip hop choose Islam ultimately, and then
Yeah, that surprises me.
aren't concerned about Adventist issues.
No. Um, yeah, I would be fascinated.
It's this, Peter. Adventism. So there are more Adventists than there are Jews.
Mm,
Okay, there are
mm,
more Adventists in the world than there are Jews in the world.
mm,
But Jews clearly have a multi-millennial history,
yes.
and are just in more places of influence and
Yeah.
more outspoken
Yeah.
about all kinds of issues.
Yeah.
And Adventism is insular, and it's I wouldn't even say modest. I'd say it's timid.
Yes.
I would
Yeah.
say that, like, we imagine that we have, like, what we're doing is we're storing up grain for God's harvest.
Yeah.
But God said, "Be salt."
I
He
know.
said, "Be salt," which means have an effect in all kinds of places and make everything different. Change.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Salt will change your food. It'll change your fender. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we are not that. We're not.
No.
We're in places where we could be effective, we shrink away. We shrink away. We're not in the mainstream of discussions. There's so many things that are going on in our church, like compliance,
Yeah.
like evolution, and versus creation. All of these things are going to, like the whole debate around sex and gender.
Yeah.
It's all going to explode, I think.
Yeah.
And I can't say it's going to explode and divide the church. I mean, people talk about the church being divided by issues forever, but I think another watershed is coming. And I'm not saying, because I happen to agree with the church's existing policy on sexuality and marriage and things like that. I agree with these things. But I think that I don't agree with their position on women in preaching, though, not at all. But I think that I don't think the church is communicating. I don't think it's communicating its beliefs or its ideas to people. I think it's making statements and then hoping everything will chill out. And I don't think that works in a world where I can get on my computer and talk to people in other countries like we're doing right now and say what we think without anyone like coming back at us. So that's
I think, I love that word timid that you're using there. And I think one of my frustrations was trying to be an activist with music. It reaching to a certain audience, which was fun and good at the time, but didn't affect any kind of political change. Those guys wouldn't have even known we were doing that sort of stuff. They were more interested in getting rid of the leaders. And then along comes the 90s and the 2000s, and I spent my time going, okay, well, let's try and bring some change from within, because the leaders were telling me in my ear, not publicly, that, hey, good on you, you're doing the right thing, things are changing, it's going to change, things are changing. And as I'm going through those 2 decades, I'm going, things are changing, but Jan Paulson's booed at one of the
so I heard.
the women's ordinations, no vote comes in, the compliance documents voted in, the Autumn Council warns 6 unions. I'm thinking, I don't think things are actually changing. And so that it didn't discourage me, but it did make me think they're too timid. And I don't know.
I think it is going to change, though.
Yeah.
I think it's going to change on behalf of women.
Yeah.
And I think that happened definitely in my lifetime. I think because I think what's going to happen is you're going to get, what was it? what's that saying, that science advances one funeral at a time?
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a generation that are going to grow up for whom this is just not a question.
Yeah.
Like, if a woman can get up and speak or preach or have authority.
Yeah.
I just think there's going to be a generation that's going to come aboard that, you know, now that the question's been raised,
Yeah.
the answer is yes, you know.
Yeah.
And I think also the same thing is going to happen around homosexuality. I think that or something similar is something that our current leadership does not value or prize is going to happen around that, because as well, you have a generation that doesn't even, this is not even an issue. It's not even a question.
Yeah. It concerns me that coming up, though, and maybe it's a more of an Australian thing, there is a very strong conservative young people's movement. And I love these guys. Like I've interviewed them on my show. Yeah, and look, if the church leaders could say, we accept the One Project, we accept the GYC, we accept these guys all in our umbrella, but they don't. Like when I interviewed Jape, he was saying that they were put under tremendous pressure to not be an official part of the church, and so they had to end that official connection with the church as the One Project and go independent. If the church could just rally around and support the two groups, I've got no problem with it. But they seem to be putting tremendous pressure on the more liberal view that are accepting these virtues and values of equality, and they're uplifting the more conservative youth. And that's what worries me a little bit, and perhaps lessens my positivity of change.
They probably think that they can save themselves this way.
Yeah.
They probably see this as these are acts of purification, so to speak.
Yes, yeah.
But you can purify something so much that it becomes sterile.
Yes.
Or where it becomes diseased.
Yeah.
Or corrupted. The way, like if you have inbreeding, like offspring start to have deformities and things like that.
Yes.
So you can purify this until it's no good to anybody.
Yeah.
Until it's not until it doesn't rub up against anything.
Oh,
any kind of like brio.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that the life or value of GYC or the One Project is self-evident.
Yes.
That is to say, let them do what they do. And I don't know, I so wanted to find out more about the One Project before it ceased to exist. It seemed like it was in existence for a very short time, it seemed to me. I was just really because it was one of those things. It was one of those things that in the description of it, it seemed so right that I wasn't sure I was understanding it. I wasn't sure I got it. It seemed so like they said Christ, that's what we're gonna talk about.
Christ
we're gonna
alone.
Talk about Christ.
Yeah.
Christ
only.
I'm like, what? I wasn't sure I understood, And from what I see or what I felt I understood, it seemed like they were really like hardcore about it. And I just never. What was the church's objection? It was something about.
Well, I don't think the leaders do object. I think they act on pressure they're getting. I don't think the leaders of Avondale and the leaders, I know for sure, the leaders in the union and SPD didn't object personally if there'd been a Des Ford memorial, but they respond to the pressure from the conservative voice that has more money, more power, and reaches to the top where Ted Wilson is. So often, that's why I see and have felt frustrated and discouraged that the beautiful group of the young GYC and the One Project, good on them, they're all growing, and then the leaders get this word to shut them down.
But here's what I'm asking: why would they go against One Project and not against 3ABN? And one answer is because 3ABN is media, and 3ABN is always talking about how great these guys above them are. That's one reason, But do you know? I mean, did
Well, I know that the conservatives said
what
that
did what did they not like about One
they
Project?
they didn't like that the One Project were following the New Age teachings of spiritual formation and emergence
Spiritual formation.
church and a
This is the
certain
term
kind
I
of
keep hearing.
prayer.
I've got to define for me. I
And
don't know what spiritual formation is.
it's literally just people saying, look, I want to explore new ways of worshiping Jesus. I might want to have prayer that's longer, or I might want to repeat some Bible verses, or I might want to just reflect in a moment of meditation. All stuff that's biblical. But once you start saying that they said that some of the members of the One project, the founders, studied at the same university where a Jesuit was teaching. The Jesuit influenced them. It just gets that crazy conspiratorial.
Dun, 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 dun.
Exactly. Can I sample that? and then of course they put pressure because they got money and power. They put pressure on the leaders, and the leaders go, bye bye One Project.
Threat.
I know. It's
The
just
Jesuit threat. Underestimated.
I was called a Jesuit last year for the first time.
Oh, cool.
A tool of Satan, a
Did
Jesuit.
you say thank you?
Yes, I appreciated the promotional material.
I don't. Can I sample it?
Yeah. One pastor, conservative.
I got to read more about the spiritual formation thing because I keep hearing about it and like.
Oh, look! Watch the Japheth talks a bit about that, and
Yeah, I have to watch.
this is just crazy stuff. He said, and it is crazy. That's the bottom line. And I'm thinking,
are you going to on this excellent show? Are you going to get people like Elder what's his name?
Ted Wilson.
Elder Wilson and others like that. Are you going to ask them to be on the show?
We've asked every single conservative leader, liberal leader, church employees, and they say no. We've literally asked. No. We've said, well, so Lance and Jill are the
North American division has a new president.
Yeah.
Alexander. And I was wondering if you're going to ask him as well.
I'd love to, yeah. Like Jill and Lance pretty much do all the bookings for me.
Okay.
And I love that. And Lance has written to Ted Wilson and got a reply from his office.
Right.
So we're yet to know. But while we've had these wonderful, like George Knight.
If you get Ted Wilson, you get lots of other people as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
George Knight said to me, he said, I looked down the list of the people you're speaking, and it's all very one-sided. And I pointed out to him that that wasn't because I want it that way.
These are the ones who talk.
They're the ones, and they're retired now, so their jobs are not under pressure or threat. But look, we would love an evangelist, any church worker to speak up their thoughts on this, but they're too scared to. And okay, no shame on that. I respect.
What are they scared though? What do you think they're scared of?
They're a repeat of post-Glacier View, where they'll lose their job.
For speaking up about Glacier View, you mean?
Yeah. Well, if they speak up similar themes of Glacier View, themes of Ellen White's authority, themes of the investigative judgment, themes of her visions, themes such as Adventist history that, like you say, has been a little bit swept under. If they talk publicly about this stuff, they're worried they will lose their jobs. And I get that in emails and messages behind the scenes from them saying that exact thing.
Wow, that's sad.
Or they'll say, I don't know anything about Glacier View, and I'm like, well, this is not a podcast just about Glacier View. What I would love, and just imagine this, if we could get some young Adventist hip-hop artist to write an angry song about compliance, and you're not going to push me around, don't tell me what to do, and then you wrote an article on it, and we promoted a YouTube clip for them here on SDAQ&A.
It sounds like it might be a great project. I think the first thing would be trying to find an Adventist hip-hop artist. There are probably more of them than I know of. Probably more than I know of. And then, as you know, artists tend to want to write about the things that move them.
Yeah.
Those are the things that artists do best, the things that personally move them. I don't know. Like I think it's really sad that there are people in the denomination who may feel that they can't speak about aspects of the
Yeah,
denomination.
exactly.
Seems to me like all you're basically saying is, I want to keep that under the rug.
Yeah.
And as we know, anything you put under a rug eventually comes from under the rug.
And if you were a white young person in the 50s,
Imagine.
you would have had no idea that this kind of suppression and oppression was going on. And young Adventists today don't fully grasp the implications of the compliance document and how it will trickle down and affect them
I mean,
unless...
if I were a young white Adventist in the 50s, I wouldn't know about racial matters. You're saying, or
No, no, no. I'm meaning as not a parallel, not on the topic, but a parallel on information being kept from them. So the young white person growing up in suburbia in America in the 50s, you know, it was all about rock and roll and the family unit and
I mean, they
watching
didn't
football.
understand there were racial problems.
They didn't realize perhaps the depth of the racial problems that were going,
Right, I've heard this.
possibly being hidden from them with all the media stuff.
Right.
Now,
You didn't mean if I was a young white person. You mean
No,
if
no,
one
no.
was-
If one was.
was
Yes,
the generic one.
exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And so equate that to now, a lot of Adventist young people, so not even any race, they are now the ones who aren't really seeing what's going on behind the scenes.
Right,
They're seeing Jesus first, and they're seeing 3ABN and Ted Wilson talking just beautifully from the pulpit of God's soon return, and they're raised in this environment where they go, everything's all right. Why are you guys talking like there's a problem?
Yeah. I think what's going to happen, I think what's bound to happen is that if you grow a generation of competent, let's say competent female thinkers, that eventually they're going to come back and want to do things on behalf of their church. And when they're told that they can only go so high, they can't be conference presidents or union presidents because you have to be ordained to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you have to be a male. You have to have a penis to be ordained.
Yeah.
If you have a penis, you can't be ordained.
I know.
That's going to work against everything that's in their culture and in their background.
Yeah,
They're going to say this is discontinuous with the rest of the universe.
Yeah.
Like there's no other place in the universe where anyone would say anything.
Yeah, I know.
And but those because the church has codified its thinking on this now.
Yeah, yeah.
That generation is still a decade out, maybe a decade or a decade and a half out, maybe before they come home to roost. They're your daughter. You know,
Yeah.
people who are going to grow up in an era where anything's open to women, and then to say in my own church, I cannot be a pastor, I cannot be a conference president, I cannot run a union, even though I'm more skilled, better trained than all the men that I went to church with.
Yes.
Just because I'm female, because I have female sex organs.
Yeah, yeah.
That's I think that's going to be unpalatable to many women, or it should be.
Yes.
It should be unpalatable.
Yeah.
To so many women. I don't think there are any verses from the Bible, or I'm not even going to say the spirit of prophecy. I don't think there are any verses from the Bible that you can quote that should make that reasonable.
Yeah.
That should make that sensible. You know, when the Bible says male and female made he them.
Yeah.
It didn't put any asterisk on that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think the chickens have yet to come home to roost on this.
I think
we're talking about the first generation of males.
Yeah.
First generation of males were saying this is the way it should be. I don't think I think those guys are going to die out.
I think you've nailed something that has given me a flicker of hope that I've not yet thought about.
Okay, what is that, Peter? I want to know.
And in Australia, the controversial kind of live music scene has been when I've done bush dancing. Now that's like you guys call it not line dancing, but where they'll do a call do said do and
square dancing.
Square dancing, yeah.
Yeah.
Now in Australia, when the convicts first came out here, they developed this thing called bush dancing, which was done at the real grassroots local level, you know.
Right.
And they, instead of a caller doing the
This is
square
like
dancing.
Australian roots music, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah, it's very much so. And it's a little bit rebellious, but it's very mild music. It's not like an aggressive music,
Hmm.
but you're getting people to dance. And so it's a style of music where you learn dances. All the patterns are already done. So square dancing, the guy's playing music and he's changing it as he goes.
Hmm.
You'll learn an actual pattern of a dance and then you teach it. And I've been doing it within the Adventist church since the early 90s
Right.
because I felt like my controversial music was having no ear at all. So I thought, well, let's introduce some dancing. And this was the kind of dancing I could do without getting too much criticism. But
Right.
anyway, that kind of built and built and built. And for 31 years in a row, I've done the bush dance as the opening night of the Avondale College students welcoming the first years. And there's
Wow.
two or 300 kids there, have a great time. We do the dances. And I've, play a little bit of rock and roll and
And,
everyone
and
has,
are kids familiar with this kind of dance, or do they
they,
know about it?
not really at the time.
Okay. Okay.
And then they kind of get to know it. And then it became a tradition.
Got it.
And then this year we were banned because because finally the Conservatives kind of really got to know what we were doing. I'm getting people to dance, and this is the kind of the short story. And I shouldn't be making it about me again. Oh dear.
Wonderful.
But anyway, it just paints a picture. So anyway, where I'm going with the little epiphany you've given me is that this particular conservative group wrote about me on this website, and there was a huge kind of backlash and response, which led to the gigs being cancelled from here on in. It was an end of a beautiful 31 years of every year this
Wow.
tradition, going, where the kids would have fun, let their hair down, and Aussies are real kind of, just tongue in cheek. So some of the guys would dress up like barnyard maidens, and have
Wow.
wigs, and they're just being fun. They're not trying to be, men dressing in skirts or anything like
Right.
that.
Right.
But
No, it's trans.
yeah, yes. So we got this massive kind of response to it, where I was then called the Jesuit and this kind of thing, and the gigs got cancelled. But here's what was interesting. On that particular thread on this Facebook site, where there was 20,000 members and whatnot, and all the vitriol was poured out, the people who defended me were all the young people, millennials and younger, and they were angry. They were angry, and they were defending me. The baby boomers were writing me emails behind the scene, hang in there, Pete, we know this must be hard for you. And I would
Yes.
write to them and say, well, go and write on the wall and defend me. And none of them
Absolutely.
did.
Keep going. Keep
None of them
going.
did. Now,
Yeah.
in my mind, I've thought, now is the time to speak up. But what you've given me hope is that I think in 7 to 10 years, these young kids are going to go, we're not going to take this anymore.
We
And I think
you can never tell what the future is, but I just know that more and more the idea that I'm a woman and that means I can't do something is becoming globally outdated.
yes,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
And so increasingly, if you're a competent female in the Seventh-day Adventist church, you're going to find its treatment of you as a would-be godly worker incompatible
yeah,
with your treatment in the rest of your life. It's going
yeah,
to be jarring, basically.
yeah,
It's going to be as though you step backwards in time,
yes, yes,
because women run countries, they run ships, they
yeah,
run spaceships. Women do anything that women are. I heard a woman just became a Green Beret in the
yeah,
United
yeah,
States.
yeah,
I mean, women do anything, like I said, that doesn't require a penis,
yeah,
and you don't need a penis to
yeah.
lead a church.
And
And
I
so,
think, that these young women young women and men of all cultures, ethnic groups that were defending me, all in their early 20s, really.
Yeah.
They're going, in 7 to 10 years' time, they're going to bring an anger component that Jesus had when he went in and cleared the temple. I think that gives me a little bit of hope, because when you think about,
if it's not squeezed out of them somehow, and if they continue to develop,
yes,
because the church has its own way of pacifying unrest by
yeah,
classifying it as satanic and other variations thereof, and people have a hard time unthinking that.
yes, yeah.
Unless you really have got your thoughts together about these.
I know behind the scenes, I get lots of Adventist women angry, frustrated, and I think if they can be mentors to these young women and help them to channel that frustration in a positive direction, I think it's so important that the elder generation of women speak to these young women and tell them the truth and tell them what's going on
I
and
agree.
encourage them. Yeah. So
I agree with you about that.
with for example, segregation in the 60s, I think I heard a story, and you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, where a black union president went to the general conference with a young pastor from Oakland. I think he was a student there, and they went in to the GC for some meetings, and at lunchtime they were told that they could, and I've heard this from a very reliable source, they were then told that they couldn't eat in the main food area, that they had to go to the segregated area for them. And now, we imagine that happening now. That would blow people's minds if someone went to the GC and
Well, it blows my mind that it actually happened. I mean, I can't speak about this specific incident, but our church did run at its headquarters segregated cafeteria, lunch facilities. They had segregated dorms.
Yeah.
I had a mentor. I had a mentor who told me the story of how he was put in a dorm that was really just almost like a bed in the basement, pretty much.
Yeah.
It was like really like not a sleeping place.
Yeah.
And then Pastor Fagel of Faith for Today came. This was at Andrews, I believe. He came to speak there, and my friend went and complained to him about this mistreatment. And he said that the pastor, I'm saying his name, he said the pastor nodded very sagely and then didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Or if he did anything, he didn't hear about it. And so that was kind of like my introduction to the fact that that in this denomination we have a history of, and this is, I came across a report a number of years ago that was it was an analysis of the role churches had played in apartheid, and it had a lot of commentary about the Seventh-day Adventists in South Africa, and I just wish I could get my hands on this document because it was just explosive, the things that were said about what we did there. And so so jumping off on this topic, I know this is not the focus of what you're saying, but yes, our church's history racially is grotesque, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that it's going to take people who see this mistreatment of women as grotesque also to
exactly. And that is the parallel I'm trying to make, that if you and I kind of see some people as being alert to what's coming over the hill, and I think if you and I were having a lunch at the GC in 1967 and we were told to be segregated, we'd be writing a Walk This Way kind of song about it, where I'd do the long hair hippie guitar and you'd be doing some hip hop, and we would be angry about it. And we would find that a lot of the Adventists of the day would go, look, let's just go along with it because this is how the world is at the moment. Things will change. And I guess what I'm saying is the parallel with women's ordination. So in the early 80s, there's no way they would have stood up for any kind of segregation at the GC. There's no way they would have done that. And I think what's going to happen in 10, 15, 20 years' time, there's no way people are going to look back at this era and go, what? Women were told they couldn't be the top leader of the Adventist church? And I think that what's just over the hill is perhaps people like yourself and me and a lot of people that are kind of a bit frustrated about this with women's ordination. I think we're seeing almost a bit into the future, and I think around the corner people are going to say, what, are you kidding me? There was a time when women couldn't be the top leader of the Adventist church? That must have been crazy, just as the same as people in the early 80s even, and now would look back at that segregation in the very GC itself as being, how did that happen? Surely that couldn't have happened. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I mean, the only thing I would differ on is that I don't feel like I'm frustrated about this issue of WO. I'm not frustrated by it. It may just be because of my immediate circumstances. It doesn't tend to come up in my local congregation, and because I think the church is wrong. I just think it's wrong. Yeah. And so that'll eventually be obvious. Yeah. And I think I also do have a certain kind of I see. I can't say like if it were a situation where if the church were as openly and frankly racist as it was. I don't know that I would have the same kind of wait and see attitude. And I don't know if I would say my attitude is wait and see. I just feel like people who are on the wrong side of history usually just get told so, and usually told in a way where it's like all they can do is just say, "You're right. I'm sorry." Yes. And I think that's what's going to happen with this. I don't. To use a term that's often used as it pertains to the environment, I don't think this is sustainable. I don't think it's sustainable to have half a planet of people. Most human beings are women. Yeah. Okay. So I don't see either how you can have a world except with tremendous violence. Yeah. Where you're telling either women what to do or what they can't do. Yeah. And especially in the domain of a entity which claims to be the recipient of God's grace and the apple of its eye. Yeah. I don't see how in the world you can sit there and say, but if you're a woman, most of the stuff I just said doesn't apply. Yeah, yeah. I don't see how that works. Yeah. I don't see how that works in a future that's smaller, tighter, more educated, where women are more educated. I just think it's on its way out. I think it's like by the time you're making like an ordination, a document about it, like you're on your way out. Yeah, yeah. It's like no one's making any document about hip hop having to stay around. No, because hip hop is successful. Yeah. Nobody's making any document like to take a position on soap operas. Well, soap operas are kind of on their way out, but on I don't know, reality television, no one's kind of making an ordination. We need to preserve reality television. Reality television's here to stay. So by the time you have to state your position on like women, that junk is dead. It's dead already because there's, like I said, there's a generation that's coming that's going to be surprised that our church even has such a position, especially one so crassly constructed because they said, well, let's have a study on it, and they had a study on it, and they say there's nothing in the Bible that's for it or against it. Mm. And they said, okay, well, let's have a vote on it then. Yeah, yeah. And then they said, like, what? Why would you have a vote? It's like having a vote on Furbies. Like, the Bible doesn't say anything about Furbies. So it's done.
It's a vote on if unicorns are real or not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like that. It's like the Bible, that's my thing. My thing is the 5 words I wish Adventists would get used to saying is the Bible does not say. Yeah. That would carry us a long way. What we do is we're like Vulcans, and we just got to come up with something. We have to just say something that fill the time or the space. It's just like it's not going to work. It's not going to work in a world where women do anything that men do. Yeah. Except father children. Yeah. Like that's the only thing they don't do. Yeah. So like what?
And when you look at the sources for them suggesting the archaic notion of the hierarchy of men above women, it's contextual to Paul writing about specific contextual things relating not only to the seven churches he oversaw, but often to only one church or specific people in the church. Whereas when you look at Christ's teachings and Paul's overall message, that's for all time. You know, Jesus is for all time. Paul is often contextual. And I think, you know, I wonder, did the church have meetings in the 70s about segregation and go, well, let's vote on this for now? And whereas now we look back on that and go, that is absolutely ludicrous that they would make someone based on colour, just the same as now based on gender, have to be segregated. And ordination is a segregation word for women. Yeah, there's no ordination in the Bible. There's no evidence for Christ ever talking about there being a need for segregation. And yet segregation and ordination are used as a weapon.
And what we find instead are many statements that are quite counter to these ideas.
Exactly.
That speak about the equality of all believers, the unity of all believers. You know, all that stuff about men's, what is this thing that, what's the term again for the men's leadership or whatever? You're talking of what that's about.
Like the whole patriarchal thing, or
what is the term that keeps coming about men's men and women in terms of the women's issue? There's a term pertaining to men's relationship to women that's used a lot, and I cannot remember what it is.
I've got a mental blank on it too.
It has to do with this whole, it comes out of the whole thing of a woman should speak and should not speak. She should listen. She should talk to her husband afterwards, or all sorts of stuff. And what I would say about that, I would say that these are statements that have to do with the relationship of men and their wives. And it's not about men ruling over their wives or men having the last word. What the Bible creates is a situation where it says, as a leader in your home, as a male leader in your home, you're supposed to be a foot servant to your wife. You're supposed to create a sphere of comfort around her so that she doesn't want for anything. That's the kind of environment you're supposed to. By the time you're saying, you know, it's like, by the time you're saying to a woman, this is my house, or I'm the head of this house, it's kind of like when you're trying to go to a club and you're not on the guest list and you say, do you know who I am?
Yeah.
If you say, do you know who I am? Your night is over. You're not getting in. And I would say the same thing. Like any man who has to say to his wife, this is my house, it's not your house.
Yeah.
Not, you're just a transient.
And that's what's being said at the compliance document level. It's like all of a sudden, hang on, do you know
all you guys who voted for this, your wives can't stand you. I just want you to know that. All you guys who said yes, your wives cannot stand you, and they can't stand that decision. It's just bad. It's bad politics. It's bad science. It's bad theology. It's just bad all the way around. There's nothing. And then also to say that in countries, see, because I realize that there are countries that have different levels of social organization. So even to say, well, the entire church has to exist this way because countries that don't have equality for women are this way. It's just all dumb. It's just dumb to me. Yeah. It's just dumb, and I think we're gonna suffer for it.
I agree, and I think one of the great things that Christ taught was inclusiveness, justice, equality, and assurance. And I think one of the great things that Des Ford...
Well, what Christ taught was this. He taught that there's a sin issue, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Like, in other words, everything else is a distant second. There's a sin issue, and that's in everybody, and that we have to resolve that. But all this other stuff is vague as far as Christianity is concerned. So, yeah.
And I think one of the wonderful things that Des brought to bear about the sin issue is that Christ has assured us that he's covered that as well.
By his grace.
And I think one of the things about the Glacier View period is that it was in many ways more about politics and trying to protect something that is perceived as being the truth and right. And Des came along saying, "Do you know what? I see a lot of people that don't feel assured of their salvation." And he beautifully, in that document, the 991 pages,
Yeah.
beautifully outlines, and sadly most of those guys didn't read it, but he beautifully does outline the gospel of Jesus and the assurance of salvation. And people can get tangled up in the academia of it and the politics of it. But I think that's something that you were mentioning. You got that little dint of things aren't quite right, but it also was a dint that helped you grasp a fuller sense of the gospel as well.
Well, Des was incredibly focused in the times I had to hear him speak or to read his work. He was incredibly focused on Christ and what Christ does for us, and that being the center and the antenna, if you will, the antenna of our belief. And that's an extremely high standard, actually.
Yeah.
Because one, a lot of people don't think that's enough. They don't think that that's even enough food, actually, for intellectual thought.
Yeah.
They really think that the meat of it is in how you flesh out the rest of it.
Yeah.
And Des understood. And I told Julia that he's the only minister who regularly, whenever I would listen to him speaking about the gospel, I would start to weep. I would start to get emotional because it was clear that his words were it was clear that this was not theoretical for him.
Yeah.
And that he had really thought deeply and felt deeply about what this thing is.
Yeah.
And I know Elaine, his daughter, has spoken about what her father meant to her as an example of what Christ is, which is just the kind of thing that you want.
Yeah.
I don't have any children myself, but if I had a daughter, that's what I would want my daughter to say. Like when I see my father, I think I know what Jesus is like.
Yeah.
Well, you can stop after that.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Job done.
So, so I think that he always the stuff about Daniel was almost like a technicality as far as he was concerned.
Yeah.
The issue was that it occurred to me a couple of years ago maybe that in Adventist churches, when we read Daniel 13 out loud, this is the chapter on love, that we go past verse 9 without thinking about it. And that's the verse that says, "For we know in part and we prophesy in part." And most of us just read it because the words are there, but we don't even know what it means. But I began to think about it, and what it's saying, at least what it's saying to me, is that you may think you have knowledge and you may think you have prophecy, but at best what you have is just a part of it. Your knowledge is incomplete and your prophecy is incomplete. Now, knowledge and prophecy are the whole Adventist shebang. That's what we lead with. We lead with, we know more about what the Bible says and means, and we know what the prophecies are about. That's pretty much the whole thing. And but this is a partial thing in a verse that's all about, in a chapter that's about love.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a minuscule afterthought.
Yeah.
Prophecy and knowledge.
Yeah.
Our whole raison d'etre is a blip in love.
Yeah.
Love is the sphere, the globe that surrounds even in the statement.
Yeah.
Which is just mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
And so I think Des was trying to let us know in many ways that we, like, this is where we're supposed to be going.
Yeah.
Like that, like I said, that Daniel 8:14 stuff was just like, that's just kind of like, if you just read the verses the right way, you'll know that no, horns don't grow out of the air.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That's just a fix you did just now, so you could turn that and make it about Rome.
Yeah.
So it isn't actually about Antiochus Epiphanes. It's actually about Rome. It's like 3-card Molly you're playing there. You just did a fast switch. So he just had to talk about that. But the real thing is love and how we treat each other and what we lead with and what we're known for. Like, are Adventists known as people who love?
Yeah.
Like, until that happens, like, we're behind the ball.
Yeah.
Until we're known as the people who love everybody.
That's right.
We're behind the ball.
Yeah.
We're behind the ball. Until that happens, we're not up on anything. That's what the Bible says.
Yeah. And yet they're trying to push, we are the people of the truth, we are the people of the book. It should be, we are the people of love.
Yeah, that book and stuff, that stuff doesn't mean anything. Because that book is only supposed to get you to love.
Yeah.
And I say this as the first convicted, as the first to be unloving, to be stiff, to be doctrinaire, to be all those bad things. The very first. I'm not putting myself forward as any kind of example. I'm just saying that, like that's the failure, and we go to Christ honestly and ask him to help us, to not be the crude, crooked person I am.
Yeah. And I think that's been the interesting thing that I've noticed organically growing within this group. You couldn't get a more polar opposite bunch of people that are members.
When you say this group,
the SDAQ&A group.
Okay.
Sorry, the SDAQ&A group. There's people who disagree.
And you think
quite
it's 1,200, about 1,200 people?
It's great at 1,200 members, and they're very active.
Crazy.
And some of them are quite nasty. You'll find comments that are nasty. Some of on both sides. But what's emerging is people that are going, hang on, it also takes a bit of discipline to be loving, and we are the first to admit that we aren't loving. And so in the group, if we sometimes overstep the mark,
and you can't grow that discipline, Peter. That discipline comes from Christ.
Exactly.
It all comes from Christ.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of like giving up. It's all kind of like letting go and giving up.
Yeah.
And what you have to have is the openness and the desire.
Yes.
But it's almost like take this vitamin, but you have to remember to take it.
Yeah.
You can't. Vitamin won't remind you to take the vitamin.
That's right. And I think, again, that's what Des was highlighting, that assurance of Jesus, the salvation, the love component.
Absolutely.
And
that Christ did it all. That Christ did it all.
Yeah.
He does and does it. He did it and does it all.
Yeah.
Like, what do you say that you don't need to work for your salvation. Your salvation. What do you say? This idea that you produce good works as a result of your relationship. It's a natural outgrowth of it. It's not.
Yeah.
You don't make your relationship better by. If I give my wife a gift, it doesn't make her feel better if she feels bad. But if she feels good, she'll appreciate it.
Yeah.
So it comes out of the relationship.
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't make the relationship. It comes out of the relationship.
Yeah. It's like that with music. Like, I love the guitar over there, and I just can't help time in. And I'm not going to be ever the perfect guitarist or musician. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to even use the instrument for not good things sometimes. But I do love it, and I'm compelled to try and have a better relationship with it and music, and that's the kind of fruits that come from the love.
And I think also, Peter, you would say that as long as you've played guitar, you can never get to a place where you say, well, I've mastered it.
Exactly, yeah, you never.
Even if you're hailed as a master of the guitar.
Yeah.
If you ask Eric Clapton, have you learned everything there is to know about guitar?
Yeah,
he would say, I haven't even started.
He'd be the first to say that.
I haven't even started.
I remember when I taught kids guitar when I was younger, in the 80s, I would say, right, now make sure you do half an hour a week, and we'd write a list up, and the parents had to sign every day that they did half an hour, 5 days a week. And the turnover rate of people wanting to play guitar, they'd be really inspired to start with. The turnover rate was probably I'd lose about 80% of my pupils every
Yes.
couple of months. I thought, what's
That's the
going on here?
80-20 rule, Peter. That's the 80-20
Yeah.
rule.
And
Yeah.
I'd go, I'm loving guitar. They love it. What's going on? And I had
No,
this
that's
epiphany
totally.
one night, and I said from then on, and this is the only change I made, I said, hey guys, 3 days a week, I want you to do 5 minutes practice on those days. So 15 minutes a week. You don't have to tell your parents, just do it if you want to, and let's have fun. I had 100% stay after that from then on.
Oh, wow.
Purely because I'm saying love the guitar. They'll do 5 minutes, but that would turn into an hour, but based on their love for it. And I think, maybe we can approach the Christian faith and the gospel a bit like that too.
In what way do you mean? Like, so what would be
So instead of saying to people, you've got to keep the law, you've got to follow the commandments, obey the teachings of Jesus, or you're not going to get to heaven, kind of a legalistic kind of approach that sometimes Adventists can fall into. Instead of that, follow this Des Ford kind of, not Des Ford teaching, but it's the teaching of Jesus, of, you follow that teaching of love, all of that kind of desire to do the work kind of falls into place in a different kind of perspective.
Yeah.
As soon as you're
I
telling
would,
people they have to play the guitar and practice to reach the salvation of being a good guitarist, they don't want to play anymore. If you tell people to love Jesus, all of a sudden the fruits of that love become, the good works flow.
yeah, I think that person has to. So it's like this. You were introduced to Jimi Hendrix,
Mm,
and once you heard Jimi Hendrix, it was like you don't have to tell me to practice or anything.
exactly.
Like I'm
Exactly.
in love with this thing,
Yeah.
and I think that you have to have an experience like that with Christ.
Yeah.
I think there has to be something about Christ that compels you, and I think that then that follows. I think
That's right.
learning to love Jesus is and to understand who he is, what he did for us, what he's doing for us, and by that I don't mean being in the second apartment of the sanctuary.
No.
I mean ministering on our behalf.
Yeah.
How whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like.
Yeah. I know.
He sat down. He sat down on the right hand of God when he ascended. So, I think doing that. I think learning to love who Jesus is, the same way that you were jolted when you saw Jimi Hendrix, and that started the process. Like we have to have an experience like that with Jesus.
Exactly.
I think that, and so I think so that doesn't mean not talking about the other things that are in the Bible. It doesn't mean not discussing other ideas, but it means that everything has to come back to Christ. It has to. And I don't know what that kind of teaching would be, but the beauty of Christ and what Christ has done for us, and we just have to find more and better ways to explain it to people and to center on that. And I think that Christ solves the rest.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think Christ solves the rest.
And I think in many ways that's what the One Project and people that are let's focus on Jesus, are trying to do. And I guess
they were taking the Bible at its word, which is what blew my mind. It's like they said, let's form a whole kind of movement about this idea.
Yeah.
And I just never seen that done. And like I said, I wasn't sure I got it. I wasn't sure I was understanding it because it seemed so simple. It's like almost like if you said like you come across these places like in New York, wherever they say, oh, we make one thing. All we make is pecan pies.
Yeah.
Like we're a restaurant that only makes pecan pies. Lots of varieties, but that's the only thing. You can't even buy a soda here. Like you would say, you'd be like, what? But what you find is that a place like that would probably do very well because there are lots of people who love pecan pie.
Yeah.
And I think in a similar, distantly similar sense, like this idea that we're going to focus on Christ. Like we're going to really take the Bible seriously and do that.
Yeah.
I just found it beautiful, like a beautiful kind of poetic statement. I wish I'd had a chance to find out more about the project.
And I think they're kind of resurrecting again now. They're doing a lot of stuff independently. I think my only critique of people that take the hippie Jesus approach and let's just focus on Jesus within the Adventist ship.
It's like it's hippie though.
No, I mean, I'm being a bit snide.
Right, right, okay.
I feel like, say for example, we've created the analogy of Jimi Hendrix, and we go, oh, and every guitar magazine I've read since 1981, you guaranteed to find the word Jimi Hendrix in there somewhere. In an
And
article, someone.
Hendrix cover somewhere within a 2-year period on the magazine.
Exactly, yeah. But he sparks this fervor with guitarists. They just love it, and then they go out and you kind of free form stuff. But I feel like and in many ways, rock and roll and hip hop is about this kind of, we're going to be a bit rebellious. But we're also finding joy. And I remember talking to a friend of mine who does rockabilly dancing, where they've got the steps all just right and they've worked them out. And he was complaining that at his rockabilly dance club, the band would play 32 bars of the guitar solo instead of the actual 16 bars that were played on the original album. And I thought, whoa, you're missing the essence of the Jimi Hendrix experience, where
Right.
you fall in love with something. And I guess what I'm saying about my only critique of people that are promoting Jesus only and Jesus first, and then opening the door of that room to the Adventist paradigm, which is saying, in essence, now we want you to focus on your practice. We want you to focus on this side of things, and make sure you do that, because you're not going to get salvation. Whereas I'd rather than be able to open the door after a one project meeting into that world of the gospel. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I feel that.
You are you thinking that, are you thinking that a one project type of undertaking cannot be sustained in a traditional Adventist context? Is that your concern?
Yeah. Thank you for saying in one sentence what I took 5 minutes.
No.
Well, I think people evangelize, bring people into the church, and pretty soon those people are going to come across the great controversy and read the chapter on the investigative judgment, and they're going to suddenly go, "Whoa, what is this?" I don't know.
I know exactly what you're saying, Peter. What you're saying is that these don't necessarily mix.
Yes.
These don't necessarily mix. You
Yeah.
can't, it's, it's like putting, I don't know, like putting an engine from a Bugatti Veyron on a Pinto.
Yes.
Like, the engine is bigger than the car, actually.
Yeah.
It's like it's just not gonna work, man.
Like, I'd love to see the one project go, let's start our own thing. Or I'd love to see the Danish and the Norwegian Union, let's start our own thing. It seems like the Liberals and the Conservatives constantly hobble each other. And I think, maybe, and that's why I love chatting to you, because you've got this really two striking life paths that you've led and continue to lead, but you hold them in balance, And so
Well, I don't know that I do. I don't know that I do hold them in balance. I
Right.
know it's all experimental in a certain sense. I think, though, for myself, that. So one thing my wife said that was very beautiful, she was very kind about this. She said that when she first met me, she could see that I had a lot of respect in the community of hip hop artists, but that I wasn't there trying to be some kind of stereotypical hip hop person, whatever that meant. I wasn't trying that. You know how, like, when Peter tries to fake that he's not down with Christ by swearing and doing all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
And he catches eyes with Jesus and it breaks his heart.
Yeah.
Like what I always did, I always not tried. I was just always the same person in
Yes.
whatever context.
Yes,
You wouldn't
yes.
see me in church and say, you're acting different than you usually do.
No.
Or you wouldn't see me with, I don't know, Stetsasonic and
No.
say, you're acting differently than you
No,
usually
no.
do in
And
church.
you can see that in your interviews too on YouTube. You're the
I hope
same
so.
person right now. You're the same person as you are in those interviews. And
Right. Oh, that's very gratifying for you to say that. Well, yeah, Zakiya said the same thing. She said that that she recognized that in me, that it was, but but I wouldn't say I've got them in balance. I would say that that I'm not where I should be as a person, certainly. So I don't have anything in balance. Like it's all out of balance. Like it's I what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to live. I'm I'm trying to not be hypocritical about like
Yeah, yeah.
what I want from God. I'm trying to like tell him the truth.
And
Trying to be
I
honest.
I hasten to add, and I'm glad that you've said that, because I'm in no way calling any GYC or any one project person as being not authentic. That those
Right. Yeah.
guys,
I'm glad you said that, and I didn't get
yeah,
that impression. I think it's good to
yeah,
make the clarification.
yeah.
You know.
I'm
Yeah.
more just stepping back, not looking at individuals. I'm just saying, I'm just kind of pondering. I look forward to the day when Adventists can be say, look, we do accept all of you guys. I feel a word from the politicians and the leaders would just make all of this seem a lot more inclusive and make a lot more sense.
I think Ted Wilson is far more interested in orthodoxy, though.
Yeah,
I think that gives. I think he gives lectures where, if you took those tests where you see how many if you took one of his lectures and if you kind of ran it through a test where you see how many new words did he use, or how many words did he use, how many times did he use those words, and then if you ran that same test on any of his speeches, you'd find that pretty much 87% of the content of any speech he gives can be found in any of the other speeches he gives. I think that he pretty much like gives variations on the same talk almost
yeah,
every time he has to speak to someone generally. And I think that to me is a sign of orthodoxy, that like his goal is to maintain the theological coherence of the denomination, not to kind of like he's like the guy with a checkered flag. His job is to do one thing, and not to do that. He's not supposed to do this with it. He's not supposed to go like that. He's supposed to go.
like that.
And I think that I can't hold that against him in a certain way. I'm sure that's kind of like what the office calls for, maybe.
Yeah,
But then again, Jan Paulson was like an individual, like he was head of the church, but you definitely got the sense that there was a person there.
yeah,
A person that was like, and this is me talking. Like, I don't know if Ted's ever going to see this. I should call him Ted because I don't know him. Elder Wilson's ever going to see this. But yeah, that's just the way, like that's just the way he comes off to me. He just comes off to me as someone who like he's really carrying the weight of the office very heavily.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see a person. I'd like to see like I'd like Ted Wilson to get up and talk about his doubts. I don't mean like the times he had doubts, like his doubts now. Just to know that he has some, as opposed to like his standard lecture, which he seems to give often.
Well, I think that's one of the things that people are drawn to.
With all due respect to I'm just saying this.
Let me agree with you so that we could both take the fallout if there's any.
No. I'm for what I say. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, but I agree with you. It resonates with me very much, and I think it goes to the heart of people are drawn to authenticity. And you can have the most lo-fi video with someone just sharing their view from a very authentic space, really touch more lives than people have put a really produced together clip that's all the right words and the hushed tones and the, like people yearn for, particularly the younger generations, they yearn for that authenticity.
That's what Christ said. Christ said, he said, one guy came up and talked about all the good things he'd done. And then one guy came up and clutched his breast and said, Lord, be merciful on me, a sinner. Which is a prayer, by the way, that anybody can utter at any time and anyone can relate to. I don't know if that guy realized that he was giving a prayer for the millennia, like he was inspiring us, And Christ, Christ said, well, it's pretty clear which prayer God heard, And I think you're right. I think I'm just I'm just kind of taken aback that a church which has as much going for it Adventism does, and I think
Yeah.
Adventism has a lot going for it.
Yeah.
I'm just taken aback that we're not that we feel like a certain level of xenophobia is appropriate. Like just
Mm.
even if it's even if it's just 5% of
Yeah. Yeah.
xenophobia, like it's okay to not be anywhere, to not expect to see Adventists at any inaugurations or any conventions or on TV. Like it's okay that we're just apart from all that. I
Yeah.
just think that's wrongheaded. I
Yeah.
think it's wrongheaded, and I don't think you get points for it.
No.
And you know, and when you can talk about being 21 million and how we've grown, so then first the question is, well, okay, how much of that is people who are actually going to church and returning tithe and there every week? That's a question.
Mm.
And then also there's just a question of like, what are you comparing it to?
Mm.
What do you are we growing as fast as the population of the world?
Yeah.
Are we growing as, I mean, I know we're growing fast as a denomination, but like
Mm.
I don't know. I just think that I don't feel like our church at 21 million people is more influential in the general world
No.
than it was at 8 million or
No.
at 16 million. I don't feel like it's more influential or
No.
more recognized. I think we've
No.
seen maybe a few more articles about the fact that we're a fast growing denomination, but I don't know. Like I said, we outnumber Jews, but you can't say that Jews are we gotta say Adventists are more influential than Jews.
Yeah. There's no Nobel laureates yet. It was.
For example, no Nobel laureates, no Grammy winners, no Oscar winners, no, not even a prominent like spokesperson or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we
Fair,
couldn't
we
even.
maintain the in-house, bring in the sheep, and then build the walls.
Yeah, we're not salt. We're
Yeah.
not salt. That's not what salt does.
Um, Harry, we're going to have to bring this to an end, unfortunately.
Oh man,
I want to keep talking to you, and I want to invite you to come and talk on my other show, Arts News TV, if I can twist your arm to do that maybe next week or
anytime, man.
something.
Absolutely. We'll make it
I'd
happen.
really, really love that and explore. That's more of a secular kind of a show, and I'd love to explore the other side of your journey. But before I get you to close with a final word of maybe advice or um, something just to encourage the listeners of positive times ahead, I just want to say that you have certainly demonstrated how Christ said to be the salt of the earth, where you found yourself and find yourself like in the midst. If you think about that hip hop era, the explosion of possibly historically, people will look back on that as one of the most powerful, provocative, enjoyable, politically enlightening genres of music. You were the salt embedded right at the the core of that, and Christ calls us to be the salt, and you lived that with authenticity, and I think that's a shining example. So just wanted to say thank you for, you know,
Well, that's very kind.
what it's worth. Thank you for
I'm,
doing that.
it's very kind. I don't agree. Like I see my shortcomings and my failures. That's what I mostly see.
But that's part of being the salt, isn't it? You know, we're being authentic. We're not trying to go out and be a perfect example. We're just being ourselves in a community, and you were a mouthpiece for that community, and because of your um, who you are, for whatever reason, you were there, and you had a voice, and nothing can take that away. You know.
Well, so I would say again, I agree with you. I agree with what you say about salt. I would defer any praise. I would say to God be the glory. Like everything,
Yeah.
like I'm super aware of His beneficence. It's just like all around
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So I would say that, and I think to the I think to the viewer, I think to the people who are watching this, like, so I've never left this denomination, and I disagree with a lot that it says and does, and don't have any problem saying so. And even like with the stuff I was saying about Ted Wilson earlier, my concern is less like being heard or being found out. Just the perception of me being disrespectful. Like
Yeah,
I
of
don't want to be
course.
disrespectful.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do feel everything I said I believe in.
Yeah.
But I guess I've never thought of leaving the church because I don't take it that seriously. And by that seriously, what I mean is that it's in me. Like the church is me. The church is me. And like I don't take the failures or the shortcomings of any other person, their doctrines,
Yeah.
stuff that I don't believe in.
Yeah.
Nothing has that seriously. Like
Yeah.
I don't like that. Adventists have the wrong idea about X does not move me. It doesn't throw me in any way because I think the things that I do agree with are kind of cool. I think there are things about Adventism. Now, if there were things, if I didn't agree with anything having to do with Adventism, I would just say, well, why am I here? I might just stay for the music, or for the companionship, and then go to other churches.
Yeah.
But I think that I really would like people who've been offended by people's. Now, if you've been offended by somebody said something harsh or was unkind or cruel, I would say this. I would say that is a challenge to you to develop like Christ. That would be so. There was a woman who used to drive my wife crazy. I'm not going to say her name, but let's say her name was Monique. I'm just making that up. And my wife would always complain about Monique did this, Monique did this, Monique did this. And it got to a point where I would say to her, what's happening here is God is using her to develop the qualities and the patience in you that he needs you to have in order to do what he wants you to do. That she is rubbing against you because that's a place where you need to be smoothed out.
Yeah.
And she began to understand this
and
began to interact with this person in a more generous way. And it got to the place where when she started having other kinds of issues, I would say, that's your Monique. That's your Monique.
Yeah.
In other words, I was trying to point this out, that you're having a difficulty because God is trying to turn you into a person who's not perturbable, who's unperturbable, And I would say for people who've left the church because someone perturbed them or was unkind to them, that's where you're supposed to really develop the Christian characteristics that make you. I'm sorry, you're going to hate me for this. I'm going to give another example. I don't remember the name of it, but there's this episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation where they're hunting for this artifact.
Yeah.
What it is, it's a weapon that when you point it and shoot it at a person, it amplifies whatever rage they have against the person who's shooting at them and destroys them. So at the very end, I'm giving away the end. This is a spoiler alert. At the very end, they find the artifact, and the people that Picard has been working with, they point the gun at him, and Picard says, empty your mind of all feelings and all thoughts. And they shoot because they're trying to kill Picard, and the rays just go through him. Doesn't affect him.
Yeah.
They shoot him again, it just goes through him. Doesn't affect him. That stuck with me because I think that's what God wants us to be. He wants people who stuff goes through us. It doesn't affect us. Ill in us.
Yeah.
So I would say to those people who've been affected, who've left the church for those reasons, it's not a matter of the church. It's not a matter of Adventism. You're going to lose your life. You're going to go to hell if you're not in that. It's nothing about that. It's totally about church is a gym. It's an exercise place where you exercise Christian qualities and you learn, you get information. It's like those places where people go and they do exercise routines, like all those. Yeah, exactly. All those exercise techniques you do in a big room. That's what church is.
Yeah.
So I would like to see people who've left for those reasons to go back, and people who have theological differences, don't give the church all that much credit.
Yeah.
Like take stuff that's good and stuff that's bad. Just take it and talk about it. Say why it's bad. Talk about why it's bad. Be influential among those people. That's what I would. That's what I would. That's what's sustained me. That's what's allowed me to continue to be a Seventh-day Adventist and go to a Seventh-day Adventist church. Loving people who love me, and me asking questions about the things that I think are whack. And and seeing my job as to develop and to be like Christ, and not being there. You know, that's kind of what I would want to say. Because my sense is that there are a certain number of people who have left the church who watched what we're doing.
There's
who are
every
kind of pissed
possible
off. They
every
can
possible
see it
Adventist every possible Adventist variant is watching.
As I often say, Christians are typically the worst arguments for Christianity. Like, we're the worst argument for Christianity. So you can almost expect that somebody's been treated like crap and it was wrong. It was wrong. If you're a person who was offended and left the church, what that person did to you was wrong. And if I could say I'm sorry or apologize on their behalf, I would. But I would just say they were wrong, because no one should act towards anybody in a way where you have anything about, like, I think I want to leave. No one should act that way in a church. But I would say that something can still come good out of it for you. You know? It has nothing to do with Adventists being the remnant or God's highest thing on earth. All that other stuff, man. That's stuff that nobody can prove.
The GC, the highest mouthpiece.
Like, what do you do with that? What do you do with that? You mean you can't make bad decisions? So what is it good for?
I know.
Like, it's all myth. Like, I want to be real clear about this. Let me be clear. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying that the church does not have God's high regard. It's not the thing that He wants. It's not the thing He's provided. It's not the thing that Christ loved. I'm just saying that, like, you should be real careful about the stuff the church says about itself. And you should really see what other people say about the church. Like, let that be your guide, not what the church says about itself. Don't believe what I say about myself. You know, take it all with a grain of, again, salt. And to you, Peter.
I love that. I love that, and that's lots of food for thought for me too. And like Len's coming up next in our interview, and we were chatting about Des with some of his beliefs, and I said one of the greatest things that I got from Des was not to follow his teachings.
Absolutely.
But he taught me to be my own person and think for myself. And so I probably would, you know, there's lots of things that I would disagree with every single person in this group on beliefs and ideas and thoughts. But I took away the idea of loving your fellow man, fellow woman, and being your own person, you know. And I think. And
did you notice also, Peter, that Des didn't sit around and talk bad about Adventists?
No, he's like he lived.
He didn't do that. He rarely mentioned them. Actually, he would give a talk and say, you know, I came from a church where people believe this. This is not true. He would talk about them in a kind of like, you know, analytical kind of way. He wouldn't sit there and say, "Man, those guys did me wrong." It's like it's the last thing you'd hear Des say.
He's
like, God bless them, and he really meant it.
Yeah. Oh, the irony. Hey, Harry, I've really loved chatting with you today, mate.
That's very kind, man. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for the good work that you're doing here, doing this. I think this is
thank you.
Like, this is like, I'm not speaking about me. I'm speaking about all the rest of the stuff that you guys are doing, man. Like, I just want to go through every interview that you've done on here. Like, this, people are saying, I should mention you had Ron Numbers here. Ron Numbers and
Jonathan Butler.
Yes, Jonathan Butler. And I'm nearly finished watching that, and that's been some good stuff.
Some good stuff. It's funny because some people, and maybe rightly so, did call us, the three of us, out on being a little bit snide and sacrilegious might not be the word about some of the topics we're talking about. But it was honestly from a sense of laugh or cry kind of thing. It wasn't a judgment.
It was war stories. You guys were sharing war
stories, yeah, and then kind of laughing about it. Yeah. And again, that's kind of why I love, you know, the palette of hip hop, because there's some serious war stories going on there in that music, but a serious amount of comedy as well. That just
absolutely,
which is incredible.
And irony and you know, and it's people, because what you learn is that usually, human beings have a whole range of emotions.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like like even if you say my reaction was sheer terror,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's often something else mixed in there. It's
Exactly.
usually not. It's very rare to have one pure emotion as a
Yeah.
response to almost
Yeah.
anything, especially if the thing you're having, if it's a job you hate. There's still moments that are just like hilarious, where
Yeah.
the boss shows how stupid he is, and you just have to laugh,
Yeah.
even though the boss's stupidity is the
It-
thing that's making your job so horrible and unbearable.
Exactly.
So I think
Yeah.
in hip hop it sustains all kinds of responses,
Yeah.
all kinds of things, because all kinds of people are having all
Yeah.
kinds of multiple reactions to
Yes.
things that beset them in their lives.
It's very exciting. And
Yes,
I
think so.
and
I
I
agree.
think too, like we raised some issues where we may have been a little bit joking about psychology and stuff of Ellen White. And again, it wasn't from we weren't from a place of criticism, and people's mental health is like hugely something on my radar that I'm very much supportive of aiding and helping anyone with mental challenges and stuff.
I think that there are people, because I've heard this for years, and I don't know how I feel about it, but I've heard for years people analyzing Ellen White's visions as an outgrowth of one kind or another form of a psychological problem.
Yeah.
And that might be a reductive analysis. Actually, it might be completely wrong. I'm not sure if it is or not. But what I would say is that I think it's totally legitimate to raise it as an objective question in the context of a reasonable analysis. And then one can just say for themselves, I think that's the most absurd thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Clearly, Ellen White was a messenger inspired by God. And that's fine. That's your conclusion. And I think for someone else who says, well, I have problems with that, like, I think that person should be heard as well. But I think what you have to understand is that in the Adventist context, there's no space for analyzing Ellen White. We can't even have a conversation about her plagiarism, and that's something that like although the church won't use that word, they use quoting other sources, or they say it's analogous to what biblical writers did with their scribes. There are all kinds of ways you kind of like soften the impact of like how she violated copyright. But I think we can't even talk about that, not to mention things like how was her brain working.
I know.
So I think that's I would say I would certainly respect and appreciate anything that anyone would say about what you guys were saying in that conversation. But I think the point is that what you've created is a place where that question can be raised.
Yeah.
And I think I'm saying even I, Harry Allen, don't think that was her issue. I don't know though.
Yeah.
I haven't really given it a lot of thought. So my first Adventist response is to say, well, no, that's not the case.
Yeah.
But I think the question's a legitimate one.
Yeah.
Because either she was experiencing epileptic fits or seizures, whatever, or she wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
So the question will be raised and then answered.
And truth can withstand scrutiny. And
she said that.
Yeah.
She said that. She said we can be fair. That was what she said. We can afford to be fair. So So I get it right. People are going to hear that and they're going to say, "Well, no. You're talking about the prophet. You crossed the line." And I would say, no, you haven't crossed the line. I would say you can ask the question.
Yeah, exactly. It's simply the question. And I look, I'd love to see.
You can ask the question, and you can express the belief that yes, I think that she experienced seizures, and that's where her visions came from. If that's what you believe.
And you can even err and think one thing one day, laugh the next, change your mind, say I'm sorry. Reinforce your thoughts. We're allowed to do that, and that's what I think is important about understanding the rules of asking why.
I wish the best prayer in the Bible, the one I love, is the one where the guy says to Christ, "Lord, I believe, help thou mine unbelief."
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a thing to say.
I love it.
God. You know what I'm saying? Lord, I believe, help thou mine unbelief. And he's saying this about his son.
Yeah.
All right. So he's like, look, I don't have time to play games.
Yeah.
Do you? You know,
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
Christ said, check this out. Christ is in the garden. He says, Lord, if possible, Father, if possible, let this cup pass from me. Do you know what that meant? That meant, if it's possible, Lord, I'd like to pull the eject lever. I'd like to end this right now.
Yeah.
Call it all off. Our infinite millennia of rehearsal for this, our discussions, forget it. I'm through. Right? If it's possible, let me out.
Yeah.
But not as I will, but as thou wilt. Do you realize? Have you heard the story of the guy in Russia who realized that the anomalies he saw in his device were not incoming American missiles, and he called off the Russian retaliation? Russians were going to send missiles to the U.S., but he realized that these were not incoming missiles, and he told them, it's just an actual story.
Wow.
I gotta find the guy's name. He's I always just think of him as a man who saved the world. An actual Russian military soldier. He saw what looked like incoming missiles from the United States on the screen and said, that doesn't make sense that they would launch this way, that way, and he didn't allow them to retaliate. It turned out it was just an anomaly. It was birds or whatever it was. I'm saying, in that moment when Christ said, Lord, if possible, let this cup pass from me, that was the night the world nearly ended. The world nearly ended that night. I mean, we don't realize it when we read the story, what he was saying. So I'm saying, if Jesus can say that we can pray for anything or ask for anything from God, we can think about anything.
Yes.
You know, I mean, within, you know, the boundaries of what we say we are, of who we are.
Yeah. But
so, as you were saying, I don't think it's sacrilegious at all for him to say, this is what I think Ellen White was facing. If somebody else has another opinion, they should probably either email you or ask to be on the show and talk about it. Yeah. Yeah. And say, this is why he was wrong about this.
Yeah. And I think they were critiquing that we were being a bit flippant about it. And I would say that what I'd love to see within Adventism...
You probably were being a bit flippant about it. That's because you've been caged in Adventism so far. There's probably a kind of naughtiness to it.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, the laugh.
Like, let me tell you what I really heard. You know,
the laugh or cry thing. And I'd love to see within Adventism not only some hip hop groups, but I'd love to see within Adventism some Adventist comedians to just put this stuff out there. You know, like, and just have some. There's a lot of comedic material within Adventism, but maybe
there is, but
they wouldn't go down well.
There's just some stuff that Adventists are not ready to joke about. There's just something they're not ready to joke about.
No, that's true. Mate, we'd better go and make room for Ellen. She's waiting in the wings, ready to come on. Those that are watching, just give me 10 minutes to do a turnaround, and we'll have Ellen here very soon. And one last quick thing, someone pointed out that earlier when I talked about the Aussie guys wearing dresses and wigs, I think we said, or one of us said they were trans, but we should have said cross-dressing.
That's what I meant. I said, I used the word, or I should say the prefix trans, but I meant cross-dressing.
Yeah, and I couldn't remember if I'd said it or not, but I thought,
it was me.
Let's nip that in the bud so that people know that that's what we were meaning.
What I actually said is it's not trans. In other words, I was saying that it wasn't someone displaying a transgender.
Yes.
Either orientation or
they weren't making any comment on gender or politics in any way.
Right. Not in that sense, at least.
Yeah. They were just having fun.
Peter, it's been a pleasure and honor being on.
Been so good, mate.
Is this a show? Should I say on your show or on your blog, or what's the right term? I was about to say on your show, but I don't know if this is a show.
So. Thanks for being on my resource.
SDAQ&A, that's what I'll say. Yeah.
And here we are back in 2025. What a fascinating interview. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed replaying it, and boy, it was fantastic. And I hope that Harry might be even watching today and gets to see some of that. What a great guy. You can tell I was a little bit star struck there, can't you? Because yeah, he had influenced me, you know, as we were talking about the wide palette of music that I've kind of embraced and enjoyed over the years. It was just weird how I didn't realize it was that Harry Allen. He'd written many articles. He was the PR guy for Public Enemy #1. I'd actually, particularly in the 90s when we were able to access a lot more articles and things from around the world. So I didn't click that it was him. And because Gillian and Des loved him, got behind his work, supported him, but never really knew that he was involved with the hip hop scene and stuff. So I remember that when I sent him the link and we were chatting just beforehand, I thought, hang on, this isn't just some Harry Allen guy that's an Adventist that wants to say some things about Des Ford and Glacier View and the Adventist Church. This is that Harry Allen that's even mentioned in Public Enemy, one of their songs. So anyway, yeah, I was a bit starstruck, but we settled into a really great conversation. And I hope you enjoyed it. That interview there from season 2, number 32. We're nearly halfway through our replay series of Glacier View, and there's always something interesting to learn there. Just one thing I would add there, when Harry was talking about people staying, don't leave if people have offended you. That wasn't my case. It didn't worry me about that kind of thing at all. And then he said, and if it's about theology, then maybe don't worry about that either. And yeah, I can understand that. But for me, I feel that seeing again 5 years from that time and having lived many, many, many years within the Adventist Church where pastors and scholars and academics and leaders and youth leaders would say to me, things are changing. If you be a part of the change. And I never saw it change. And since leaving the church, I've realized they weren't really doing anything to make a change anyway. So, I think if you are staying within the Adventist Church because you think you can bring about a change, yeah, you're not going to be able to do that. But you can enjoy your cultural Adventism, your happy Sabbath, your music, your haystacks after lunch. That's great. Enjoy all of that and embrace it. But one of the reasons I would say that I'm glad I left and that I wouldn't put my name to the Seventh Adventist Church is because I don't think it is a safe place for young kids to grow up in. There are many, many great things about growing up within the Adventist Church, so don't get me wrong. I'm trying to think of an analogy to explain it. Yesterday, I took my daughters to a beautiful, in our lake, it's like an open swimming pool in the lake. I actually have a picture. I wonder if I can try and bring it on the
SDAQ&A experience.
Let me see if I can. Just to show you what I'm talking about. Does this come up on the screen? Oh yeah, it does a little bit. So let's see if I can make it bigger. And I'll just remove the QR code. Thanks for your support, by the way, everybody. Yeah, might as well, if we're giving an analogy, I might as well give some visual aids to help you understand what I'm talking about. So this is the corner here of the this kind of swimming space that they've built into the lake. And when I was a young boy, so there's that you can see Ruby on the edge running out, and we both went in and had a fantastic swim in there. But when I was a boy, this place was still there. It's only about 20 minutes away from me. And I don't know if you can see there, but around the edges, there's netting now. But when I was a boy, there was no netting. And so we often didn't really feel comfortable swimming in there because, what do they call those? Bull sharks, big fish, jellyfish would just kind of float through. Debris would float through. And here's my example. When I now take my daughters to swim in this beautiful part of the world, this beautiful water, this beautiful swimming pool that is part of the lake, I feel really happy doing so. Yeah, some fish and small jellyfish can get in through the netting, but nothing that really is going to cause harm or fear. However, when you bring someone into the Adventist church, and sure, you might bring them initially into Happy Sabbath, good music, a church that does great things in the community. They have haystacks, and they're really lovely people, and there's a great environment for the kids. I take my girls to some of these churches and enjoy hanging out. But the problem with Adventism is that it is like an unguarded swimming pool. And you go diving into the Adventist waters, you are quite likely to run into a jellyfish or a little bull shark or some big fish that want to nip at your toes. There are landmines within Adventism that unfortunately, hang on, where have I gone? Unfortunately, young people can fall pitfalls, holes, potholes that they can fall into. And some of them are deep theological things that can scar young kids. Anyway, what a long, boring analogy that was. I will be taking my daughters for a swim in that same place in about an hour. So I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, great to see you all. I hope you enjoyed today's program. We will be back tomorrow, I think, with Elaine's program that I talked about, and I hope you can join me. So, yeah, let's go out with that very interesting comment that Pastor C.D. Brooks made a number of years ago. Adventists, kind of potholes that I'm referring to. See ya.
And God's will is simple. The most wretched man in hell will not be Adolf Hitler. The most wretched man in hell, or woman, will not be one like Joe Stalin or some of these more modern devils. The most wretched person in hell will be a former Seventh-day Adventist.